After 5 months away, back for 2022 is the Michelin Le Mans Cup, with round one taking place here at Circuit Paul Ricard under beautiful skies, clear blue as far as the eye can see. A little blustery here and there, as you can tell by the flags on top of the iconic pit lane building with Paul Ricard stamped on the front. Le Castellet, the first calling point for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. We will be going to Italy twice, in fact, to Imola and Monza, slotted between those two meetings, the two races at Le Mans as part of the Road to Le Mans event, and to Belgium and to Portugal as well. Plenty up for grabs, two different titles, well, four if you include the drivers, across two separate classes, GT3 and a massive LMP3 field for this season. Situated right next to Le Castellet Airport, this high-tech test track, which has become once again a Grand Prix venue a couple of seasons ago, is our first stop-off then, and first of two within France itself. Confirmation of the calendar then. Le Castellet to kick things off. In a month's time, we'll then travel to Emilia-Romagna and to Imola. Welcome return to the calendar for that Italian circuit. Le Mans for the two races, the shortened 55-minute races, and then Monza, Spa and Portimao to finish things off. And a reminder that the standard bread and butter races that were 2 hours have been slightly shortened as well for season 2022 to 1 hour and 50 minutes. A reminder of the track that we will be competing on today, 5.7 kilometres of it, but it offers all sorts of different sectors. The Mistral Straight, which is pedal to the metal, no chicanes being used once again this year, but tight and twisty technical sectors 1 and 3 really do mean that you need to hit a compromise when you're setting up the car. It's not just my voice, Johnny Palmer, that you'll be hearing, but Graham Goodwin joins me again. Obviously, you were on stream with me for qualifying earlier on. The LMP3 is particularly busy. But Torsten Kratz, in what might appear like a lone Duquesne in amongst 12 Ligiers that followed, really did the business for WTM Racing.
Toughed it out, didn't he? And it is a tale of two different routes to a setup here at Paul Ricard. That much has been emerging through the week. It's certainly emerging through the weekend. There are the teams and the cars that are trimmed out for high speed down the Mistral Straight, and the teams that have set these cars up to be better handling through sectors 1 and 3. And at the moment, in terms of the ultimately quicker times, it looks to me as if it's the teams that have taken the latter strategy that have done the better job for pace. Will that be the same when we get into a race over 1 hour and 50 minutes? Well, that's quite another question.
It was a more even spread in qualifying last year, although Ligier locked out the front row in 2021. Duquesne were there on the second row, but it is on an unusual grid when you compare. Well, it might just all be down to setups, which is what you're suggesting, that maybe WTM, now looked after by Rinaldi Racing rather than Phoenix previously. It's just perhaps the way that they've chosen to approach the single lap pace for car number 11. Will that work over 1 hour and 50 minutes? Well, you have to sit there and wait and see.
Yeah, we've got a bit of Avengers theme music going on there, and well, the superheroes of this are going to be aboard these 38 cars, 31, a rammed full grid of LMP3 cars, Johnny, and you know the storylines will be telling some of them. I've got a list of them here. I'm not going to get through them in 1 hour and 50 minutes. No, just no chance. All sorts of things to talk about, including the fact we've got a brand new fuel for the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year, 100% renewable, made from, of all things, the residue from winemaking, principally in France, but not exclusively, around Europe too. That's the LMP3s and the GT3 cars here. GT3 storylines there too. A trio of Hondas, and they dominated qualifying this morning. The all-Danish squad, 3 of these Honda NSX Evo 22s, the very, very quick in a straight line. 6 Danish drivers, including drivers with some heritage. Le Mans winner, double Le Mans winner, Christian Poulsen amongst them. Jens Muller, who back in the day used to race amongst other things, the LMP 900 Lister Storm.
Yep.
Amazing stories here in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. It is a step on the ladder for teams and for drivers and for racing ambitions, but to get up that ladder, you've got to get the business done. In just a few minutes' time, we're going to see how successful these drivers are in doing exactly that.
Well, it was Jens Moller who did the business in the number 44 Honda NSX from the GMB Motorsport crew. He put in a time of 156.314. Teammate Christian Poulsen was only 0.4 of a second slower. They didn't quite get the full set, though, of Honda NSXs topping the charts because Lars Engelbrekt Pedersen just missed out after Emanuele Busnelli, a former champion at GT3 level.
Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. Contre nous de la tyrannie, l'étendard sanglant élevé, l'étendard sanglant élevé. Entendez-vous tant vos campagnes mugir ces féroces soldats? Ils viennent jusque dans vos bras, égorger vos fils et vos compagnes. Aux armes, citoyens, formez vos bataillons. Marchons, marchons, qu'un sang impur abreuve nos sillons.
A striking rendition of La Marseillaise then here at, well, just about an hour's drive away from Marseille, and, well, really gets you in the mood, doesn't it?
It does, rather.
Ahead of, indeed, a European Championship, but with its heart in France, and we will have 3 races in total this season in its homeland for the ACO and LMEM, who look after this championship. Speaking of which, here's some of the bigwigs.
Yeah, there you go. That's neither a wig nor big, but it is Pierre Fillon, the ACO president and the man in charge of the organisation that organises not only the Le Mans 24 Hours, but also the European Le Mans Series, the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Frédéric Lequian is CEO of LMEM, which is a joint venture between the ACO and the FIA, and also, of course, the FI World Endurance Championship. It truly is the organisation that has got its roots into and through world sports car racing. Total Energies there on the grid, and they're going to be overseeing the debut in Michelin Le Mans Cup competition of this new Excellium Racing 100 fuel that will be powering these cars. And much as there's been a little bit of chatter, by the way, pre-season about the calorific content of that fuel, Total Energies telling us yesterday, Johnny, no change in the kind of stint times that are going to be done by the cars up and down the grids with this. Something like a 2% difference, which will mean, for instance, at Le Mans, for the leading cars, still going to be 11 laps on a tank of fuel. So we're not going to see a reduction in stint times, something we expected might happen. So that's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, Romain Aubry really giving us the rundown of this new fuel, biofuel, and he said that one of the main pieces of the brief was that the 11-lap stint time for LMP2s had to be retained at Le Mans, and then that transcends into, you know, the relevant stint lengths at these individual events, not for this round, I realise, but for tomorrow's ELMS opener. Yep. We should still be looking at 45 minutes or so for a stint
P2, yep.
in P2, and these cars, well, because of the engine differences that came in a couple of years ago, the race distance has been shortened, but that's nothing to do with the fuel that powers the Nissan 5.6 litre V8, more to do with the fact that they rather burn through that biofuel rather rapidly.
If you're looking at the empty stands to one side, those stands not open to the public here this weekend, but as you can see on top of the pit building, there's plenty of people watching from that vantage point, and also from the Extreme Park, which is the multi-purpose arena that's a facility that surrounds the outer part of the arena section, if you like, of this circuit. Free entry there to the public, and there's a fair number of people have turned up to get their first taste of live sports car racing in many, many months, and boy are they a welcome sight. Great to welcome the public back, and those barriers brought in by the pandemic are coming down, and not very slowly.
Understandably so. It's been a long, long time. Now, CR Cruz and Dino Lunardi caught sight of their car a moment or two ago. Charles qualifying the car in 4th position and will be joined by Italian driver for the race. Alexander Matschel and Tom Dillman, Frenchman, joining German driver Michelin, who had to do the qualifying as per the regs because it's a bronze-only session.
Yep, Tom Dillman has been another man who's raced at the very top of sports car racing, hopes to do so again. But we'll wait to see whether or not that's going to be possible with the current places intending to race. Lots going on here. This is a story, you know, up and down this grid. It's not been tokenist. There are just more female faces in this pit lane, in this paddock, and in increasingly senior positions, and that's a delight to see.
Yeah, but also, you know, chatter between teams who are about to be stern rivals out on the racetrack, but Racing Spirit of Le Mans having a chat to Edex Sport and wishing them well. I'm sure if they're door handle to door handle, they won't be sending out the same message.
No. Dear me. MV2S Forestier Racing, a rebranding of the MV2S squad, step back from a single car entry in the LMS to a two-car entry here in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Just one of the stories around here. You mentioned already, Johnny, the WTM car now in the hands of Rinaldi Racing. So both the two teams on the front row for starters coming with a slightly different package. Thorsten Kratz it will be that will start this race with Leonard Weiss to take over the car later. These teams, by the way, several of them already done plenty of LMP3 racing so far this year, and in the mix, WTM racing for the Asian Le Mans Series in February. Also on this grid, CD Sports, who took that title. 5-minute board is up, and it's not going to be very long before we're underway for what is going to be an extremely exciting season. In the wheelchair there, just behind the gentleman in front of the car, that is Gilles Duquet. It is his name on the badge. There's Gilles. No mean racer himself. He was one of the drivers in the very first season of GT3 racing, and Gilles with a hand-controlled Dodge Viper of all things, and did very well indeed. And this is his car, the Duquesne. Duquesne Engineering taking over the project, initially started by Norma, now branded, of course, in its new evolution as Duquesne D08, and that is the man with his name over the door.
Yeah, so there are a mixture of Duquesne and Ligier. Predominantly the chassis that a lot of teams have picked is the Ligier, and that's maybe the reason why it is dominant in the top 13, apart from that one outlier, which is the pole car. And it's a question of how long Thorsten Kratz and Leo Weiss can stay there. In this equivalent meeting last year, they qualified 7th and finished 11th. Now, I would say they've already made strides year on year looking at their pace, and particularly 50-year-old Thorsten Kratz, who clearly has made this circuit one of his favourites.
And this is what we've seen, Johnny, through this LMP3 formula. It is another step on the ladder, the sports car racing pyramid. We've just commentated on the Ligier European Series, a relatively new addition and a lower rung on the ladder. But we see it constantly, whether or not it's a 50-year-old driver like Thorsten Kratz, a 16-year-old driver, those drivers, those teams, unpicking the Rubicon of LMP3 and finding ways to just drag the best out of this package. And in a second and a third year, very often what we see is something just comes together. Is this going to be a year for WTM, or are they going to be swallowed by this pack of 24 Ligiers behind them?
Let's have a look at the grid then. Thorsten Kratz set the time earlier today, 1:50.508, to put WTM on pole alongside MV2S Forestier Racing and Jérôme de Sadelier, making a first run into ACO rules racing from years of doing radicals. Alex Matchell and Charles Cruz come next on the second row. Then Fabrice Rosselli and Freddie Hunt for Graf Racing and Reiter Engineering. Fabien Michal, who had a big spin at turn 1 for CD Sport alongside John Schaumann and United Autosports. It's Graf Racing, Louis Saint-Juin of Switzerland alongside RLRM Sports Martin Rich, number 53. Then Maurice Smith, Cool Racing, came so close to last year's title, ran short by just a couple of points. Auden Gudmundsson of Team Tor next. Tony Wells is the defending champion with co-driver Colin Noble for Nielsen Racing. They start 13th alongside Rinaldi Racing Steve Parrow. It's Alexander Bukantsov of DKR Engineering alongside Pietro Peccinini. Jacques Wolf for Racing Spirit of Le Mans and Christophe Crespin, the second of the MV2S racing cars. Then Nielsen Racing's John Melsom, also in the wars a little bit in qualifying, but did recover. Alexander Taukanitsa for Talcanet's a senior for AT Racing next. Daniel Schneider and then Mark Crader. Mark Crader's changed teams, although kept the race number 20 from Grain Market Racing to Optimum Motorsport. ANS Motorsport, Jonathan Brossart and Fricadelli Racing Team Klaus Abelan. Then it's Sean Lynn and Rob Hodes for United Autosports and Team Virage. They used to be teammates. And then Alexander Yvon with Andres Latour, Virage and United respectively. John Brownson for DKR Engineering and AF Courses Crichton Lentudis. We're down into the GT3s now on the graphics. Jens Moller with the pole sitting time for one of 3 Honda NSXs from JMB Motorsport. So Moller starts alongside Christian Poulsen. Emanuele Busnelli for Ebby Motors. He's a former champion at GT3 level, 2017 champ in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen, also in a GMB Motorsport NSX. 2 AF Corsa Ferraris. Gino Forgione to start the 61 alongside Marcus Vivian Della Pedrosa in 51, and finally Stephen Patrick in the Bullet Racing all black number 99 Aston Martin will start from 7th place in GT3. I make that 38 cars about to get rolling and spot on time. This race due to be off at 4:40 local. We're 4 minutes away from that, and it will run all the way through till 6:30 this evening. 22.7 degrees Celsius is the ambient temperature. It'll be quite a bit warmer than that at track level because we've had a lot of sunshine today, but we've also had quite a lot of Michelin tyre go down, together with the rival tyre constructor. We won't mention them just yet because this is the Michelin Le Mans Cup after all, but plenty of grip out there. It's also, though, rather greasy and gravelly offline potentially, so got to be careful through traffic.
31 LMP3 cars and 7 GT3 cars make their way from the grid onto the formation lap for this opening round of the 2022 Michelin Le Mans Cup. And we'll pick up some of the dozens, hundreds of stories thus far, even before a racing lap has been turned, as we see these cars make their way around. Second of the MV2S cars, the orange themed car. We've already seen the green car there, second on the grid. The white car just coming through the turn there. Reiter Engineering with their first LMP effort. Hans Reiter, known for his exploits with Lamborghini GT cars and KTM GT cars, now fancies a go at Le Mans, and this is his first step on that journey. Amongst the drivers for that car, and in fact starting the car, Freddie Hunt, son of the late James Hunt, Formula 1 World Champion, of course, and Freddie put in a very good time indeed in qualifying.
We got a car in the pit lane, Graham. It's the 66 Steve Parrow Rinaldi racing machine, which either didn't get out or they've had to push it back into pit road, but I think probably it didn't make the closure of the pit lane. It is shown on our screen in 14th position, but it would appear it's not there.
Right.
And having to start from pit road, possibly a lap down as well.
We'll keep an eye on that, see what the story is there. Just look at this little lot.
As far as the eye can see, I mean, there's a whole of the Mistral straight, which appears to be weaving, moving.
4 United Autosports car, a record for them in a non-Le Mans car. There is Steve Parrow waiting at pit out. Optimum Motorsport making their first entry into LMP3 alongside their GTE and GT3 efforts. They're here with a Duquesne. The Grain Market Racing entry, as was last year, moves to Optimum Motorsport. So many stories. Fricadelli Racing Team here with a late addition. Klaus Abelan to start. Felipe Larza will join him. So Felipe, of course, as part of the proton competition efforts in the LMS, is the driver coach for Michael Fassbender. And then we get into the GT cars. 3 Danish-entered Hondas, a pair of AF Corsa Ferraris, the Bullet Racing Aston Martin, a beautiful looking car that is, and then the EB Motors late replacement Porsche for their Lamborghini Huracan. That story when we get an opportunity to tell it.
But Torsten Kratz now looking to, well, for the pace car to dictate the pace for him, and said Audi will move to the right-hand side of the track very shortly to head down pit road, and that will leave the job of keeping the pace to Torsten Kratz and Jerome de Sadelier alongside him, the 33-year-old Swiss driver, elder brother of Ugo de Sadelier, former LMP2 racer with United Autosports. Alexander Matschel alongside Charles Cruz, and then it'll be Fabrice Rosselli and Freddie Hunt on the third row for Graf Racing and Reiter Engineering respectively. It's been quite a wait, over 5 months, but now we are about to get rolling. The 2022 Michelin Le Mans Cup is about to get started at Le Castellet. The red lights are out and we are racing. Getaway for Torsten Kratz. He has got the jump on Jerome de Sadelier. Does everybody else squeeze through on cold tyres? There's a big wiggle from Alexander Matschel, I reckon, but he just about weathers the storm and making ground well. Freddie Hunt in the Reiter Engineering car. That's the all-white machine up to 4th position. 5th place, I reckon, is Charles Cruz. And in 6th position, Fabrice Rosselli. Will confirm those spots in a moment or two, but then shuffled out wide, Freddie Hunt, as Charles Cruz slots by on his right-hand side. But Torsten Kratz will have been thinking about this start for many hours since he took pole position just before lunchtime, and he has fended off the advances of all of those Ligier JS P320s.
Yeah, Freddie Hunt, brilliant start from him, but then a bit over-aggressive as he tried to take another bite, and big wiggle as he went off track and tried to get back past Charlie Cruz, and Charlie Cruz had seen the move coming earlier in the lap. And that is just, Freddie needs to just calm down, get himself dialed in here. He's right in front of the CD Sport car here, but that was almost absolute disaster.
You do not want to see a car moving from left to right at that sort of speed down the Mistral straight. It would be very easy for air to get underneath the car and it to be lifted off the ground, although the dorsal fin in more recent years has helped to prevent that from happening. He did incredibly well after he rattled the curves to hang on to that. The steering wheel will have been jumping out of his hands at the time. So he has lost places, Freddie Hunt, but not that many, all things considered, slipping behind John Schauerman for United Autosports in his number 23 car, who's up to 6th place. 1 lap about to be completed. You'll notice that the car in the pit lane still has not been released. Steve Parrow will get the green light at the end of, well, the run for all of these cars into turn 1 for the 2nd time, and it is as I thought. He has to join the race a full lap down to be as safe as possible, rather than launch his car from the pit lane into a potential accident on the first lap.
Jens Waller, meanwhile, has been making progress up through some of the back markers in LMP3. There is the red Honda, the McDonald's branding on the front of that car. The fastest of the GT3 cars, being a bit roughed up there a little bit, but he's more than up for this fight. He's been around a long time, Jens Waller. Here come the other two, so it's a 1-2-3 at the moment for the... No, it's not. It's a 1-2-4 for the Hondas, because the EB Motors Porsche, difficult to miss there, even on a dark night, that one. Then the 2 Ferraris and the bullet Aston Martin right in the wheel tracks of the second of the Ferraris. That's the AF Corsa number 51 car.
Steve Parrow's in the race for Rinaldi Racing. He joins from the pit lane car 66, so we have the full complement of 38 cars now. Torsten Kratz in the only Duquesne in the top 12 positions, leads by 1.3 seconds over Jerome de Sadelier for MV2S Forestier Racing. Then it's Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Alexander Matschel's done well to hang on to that place when he was almost shuffled down the order, and Charles Cruz likewise for EDEX Sport. Fabrice Rossello stays holding station in 5th. John Schauerman has taken the advantage though after that wayward moment for Freddie Hunt, so Schauerman gains a spot and Freddie Hunt loses 2. Then it's Fabien Michal for CD Sport, Louis Saint-Juin for Graf Racing, the second of their cars in the top 9, and R&RM Sports Martin Rich completes the top 10, with GMB Motorsports Jens Moller able to put 4 LMP3 cars between him and his teammate car Christian Poulsen. That is quite a buffer zone this early on in an hour and 50-minute race.
Watch Freddie Hunt here to the inside. It's 5th at the point at which the lights go green, but it doesn't stay 5th for long. It's a good move to the inside here at turn 1. After that, it started to go a little bit wrong a couple of corners later.
He was quite possibly caught on the wrong side, but you can't help which side of the grid you qualify. So he had the outside line into turn 1.
Up to third there.
Did okay there, actually, sweeping across around the outside of a couple.
It was here, went to the outside, went too wide, over one of the sausage curbs, I think, and nearly lost the car. Did well to recover that.
There were a couple of really tough floppies that he caught, and the curb. And when you smack a serrated curb at that sort of speed, that is how unsettled the car can get, and tough to control, because that will have come with very little warning indeed. When you are so close to a car in front, easy to lose where the very edge of the track is. Anyway, disaster averted, and Freddie Hunt running in 7th position, ahead of Louis Saint-Juin, Martin Rich, Mo Smith for Cool Racing. Mo will be disappointed with his start so far, but there is chance to improve yet. And when we get to the driver changes, he will be handing over to Malte Jakobsen, who has been a star already today.
Yeah, that's going to be something to see. Malte is up for this or any other fight involving a wheel at each corner of an LMP3 car right now.
Good battle developing for 6th position, involving John Schaumann, a recovering Freddie Hunt, and also the CD Sport car in there of Fabien Michal, a Frenchman, for the Spanish outfit. Michal's got company as well. Good
to see CD Sport recovering their season. Came out of the Michelin Le Mans Series taking a 1-2 in that championship, but with no other plans. It looked as if their success there has garnered a bit of support. They've got this Michelin Le Mans Cup programme and will be at Le Mans and LMP2 car.
Good middle sector pace. That's the Mistral straight, remember, for the Nielsen Racing car of John Melsom, just doing the fastest middle sector of anybody so far at 29.2. But Jérôme de Sardelia is gaining a bit of ground on the overall race leader, Torsten Kratz, 2/10 of a second in that short first sector.
You mentioned John Melton in that middle sector. That's a great example of what we're talking about at the start of the race, Johnny. Clearly a car that's been trimmed for speed. 284 kilometres an hour, as we've got 2 cars are going to get a jump, drive-through penalties. It's going to go to car 88 and car 44, 2 of the 3 GMB Hondas.
44 leads the GT3 category,
there you go.
And very convincingly as well, but both have been pinged for not false starts, so they were in the correct position, but they've gone before the red lights were extinguished by the sounds of things. Drive-through penalty, so not stop and goes. Nevertheless, that's going to severely dent their run. 2 of the 3 GMB Motorsport cars pinged for that.
Indeed. So to complete the point, 285 kilometres an hour through the speed trap on the Mistral for John Melson. Compare that to the race leader at 278 and the second place car at 276. What it's not producing is the better lap times, because those cars have clearly been set up to be quicker in the twisty bits in sectors 1 and 3.
As has, you would think, Jérôme de Sadelia's car, because new purple times first and third sector now for the Swiss.
But not second. That's the clear indicator.
Yeah.
He's got a very, very quick lap, but not able to produce the speed down the main straight.
Yeah, 152.036 becomes the new fastest lap of the race, but not enough at the moment. Now that's John Schaumann. Yeah, it is from 6th position. John Schaumann's had a spin, or worse, maybe some contact at turn number 1. So single waved yellow flags plus the LED boards are flashing to warn everyone of the stricken car. Just the other side of those cones, in comes the 44 from the GT3 race lead to do a drive-through penalty after that jump start for Jens Moller. And that will gift the race lead to his teammate Christian Poulsen, who is the GMB Motorsport car that did not receive a penalty, all on his own for John Schaumann.
Identical to what we saw earlier today in the was it the free practice session or qualifying? Qualifying, we saw 2 cars do almost exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
and that was well avoided by the way there by Freddie Hunt.
If you approach turn 1 too wide, there is a big jump there, a bump in the road, I think, and it really unsettles the car. Yes, it might be down to turn-in point as well, and how violent you are as you turn in for the left-hander at turn 1, Verrier to give it its official name, but there's just no getting that back because there's so little warning. The rear overtakes the front, and you're off the road Thankfully, nowhere close to anything solid for John Sharman, and he will be able to rejoin, but a load of places lost because of that.
Good start from Stephen Patrick. He's gone by one of the Ferraris. He's got the 44 car that's been through pit lane behind him as well, and is now in the wheel tracks, the second of the GMB Motorsports Hondas, the number 88 car, and looking racy. Here comes the recovering 44 car. Has served its drive-through penalty, is already past the 51. Leading then is the 55. 44 has still got to pit.
Pretty close there between the 51A, of course, to Ferrari and an LMP3 to Bose.
I think it was Steve Parrott starting his recovery drive-through.
That would make sense.
Up the inside from the number 4 car. Despite the colour scheme, by the way, we'll have to get used to this. That is a Nielsen racing car. The number 4, it is their new effort. John Milson showing with Matt Bell. Team Tour, great to see the Icelandic team back, and that is in front of one of a pair of almost identically liveried DKR machines, the 14 car that will later on see Lance Her aboard. No, it's the other one, sorry, he's not in the 14. My apologies.
Her DKR will be shared by, Bukansov starting, James Winslow to take it over, who is a gold. You are permitted golds, but not platinums in your combination, but you only get one. The other must be a bronze, and that is the job of Alexander Bukansov.
So here comes the second of the errant Hondas down through pit lane. That will gift Bullet another position up into 4th place for the matte black and strident red Aston Martin. That's a team that's had their travails this week. Pretty major incidents, pretty innocent spin for Stephen Patrick, then collected by an unsighted Lawrence Her. That caused the team no end of trouble. They switched to their spare car, but they didn't have all the bits, and it's been a search across Europe to get that done. And it's to their credit and the credit of the international racing community that's pulled together and made that happen. Bits and pieces from all over for this. I'm not going to say it's a Trigger's broom of a car.
But we know what you mean.
But way wide for both of those cars. 44 car on its recovery drive went around the Aston Martin. Jens Muller, the more experienced of the two drivers.
Yeah, so Stephen Patrick kind of knew the game was up there into senior corner and didn't make the task for Jens Muller any more difficult than it needed to be. 61 Ferrari for Giorgio Forgione is now being shown as stopped. I think that's a sticky transponder though, because all of a sudden it pops back up to 3rd position for Forgione. So maybe it's just not triggering the loops as it should do. Ebi Motors, Emanuele Busnelli ahead of the first of the two AF Corsa Ferraris, and Jens Muller will be labelling 61 as his next target.
Jens Muller, by the way, 14 seconds off the lead after the drive-through penalty. So making very good progress in time.
Lights flashing for the TS Corsa car, being driven by Pietro Peccinini. So Alexander Bukansov just ahead, the Emirati flagged driver.
So this is the two of the Ducanes side by side there down the Mistral. TS Corsa, a first-time full-season entry. They were here each race, but late additions, therefore, were not eligible for points last year. Be good to see the Italian squad in the mix. So WTM Racing lead the race from MV2S First Year Racing, Racing Spirit Le Mans Edict Sport, Graf, CD Sports, and then the second Graf car. Both the Graf cars in the top 7 at the moment. And then Martin Rich, who'll be doing half of this season in that RLRM Sport car, Martin, the 53 car. The other half of the season will be fulfilled by the Racing Reverend Simon Butler, and a huge amount of media interest back at home in the UK from Simon. We had Breakfast TV here during the test to interview him, and he is indeed a racing vicar. He's a vicar by trade, has a parish to look after. This is what he's doing with his sabbatical time, and has been pictured in his full robes. In a couple of, I think, the Sun and the Daily Express this week.
Well, it's understandable he's not racing this weekend then, because you'd imagine he's got a fairly full schedule, it being Easter, but he will be back for a few races later on in the season.
could be good to see what's going on with that one. Here's a bit of a tussle between the number 2 and the number 28.
So car 2, has this now become the best of the United Autosport cars, with unfortunately that spin for John Showerman? Just about.
Might be.
Yes. So that's disappointing for the Yorkshire
No,
squad.
second one, Daniel Schneider.
Oh, Brazilian driver, yeah.
Up in 18th position. And while we're talking about the 32 car, if you're listening, Ellie Merrick, our thoughts are with you and your family, and you can't be here this weekend. There's a family emergency, and we're thinking of you. We'll see you at the next race.
Look forward to that in Imola. So Daniel Schneider, Brazilian, 32, car 32, running in 19th, as you say. Then Klaus Aberlan for Fricadelli Racing Team, Jonathan Brossard for ANS Motorsport, and then Sean Lynn. So where has John Showerman slipped to? 25th place for car number 23. That was a costly spin.
61 car, the EP Motors car, running wide there.
Emanuele Busnelli nowhere near the apex at Beausset.
He took a big bit of curb, but I think that just spat him off wide.
Easily done. You only have to get senior corner very slightly wrong, and then that really puts you out of rhythm into the double droite.
And has lost another place to the charging Jens Müller.
Yes.
And Jens Müller is catching Gino Forgione for second now. Remember, this is the car that has actually already had a drive-through penalty. 25 minutes later, challenging for second again.
Steve Parrow about to work his way through and past Busnelli. Should be a relatively easy job. Parrow actually still hasn't made any ground on a lot of these, all of these GT3 cars, because he's a lap down, remember. Yeah. So he'd have to overtake them on 2 separate occasions and then attempt to eat into the LMP3 traffic.
He's got a minute and a half to pick up on the last runner in GT. That at the moment is the third of the GMB Hondas, the non-related Pedersens.
So bookending the whole race, Rinaldi Racing currently with this car, the WTM racing machine from Rinaldi, and Steve Parrow, sadly, whether that was a mistake in the pits, miscommunication, it meant that that car was late leaving and has to start the race a lap down. There is a change of position within GT3 though for second spot, because the 44 car recovering from its drive-through penalty. Jens Moller is now ahead of Gino Forgione for AF Corsa. And try and get the real-time gap between Christian Poulsen and Moller. It is 14 seconds.
Yeah,
just
that's
about
coming down as well. Jens Moller is not messing about here. He's hustling that car. Knows this car well. Has raced, owned and raced Honda NSX GT3s for several seasons. Has had success in other series with them. Raced in the Nations Cup in one of these cars for Denmark, in Vallelunga, in the good old days. In fact, I apologise, it was the Motorsport Games, not the Nations Cup at Vallelunga.
But in an NSX, though.
NSX.
So it's been a couple of years.
It's his car. I mean, he has raced an NSX. Oh, trouble there for the Fricadelli Racing car.
Klaus Aberlan
stays out the barriers.
Did he?
I think he did.
Yeah, OK. They're further back than I thought, and he's brought quite a bit of dust on the road with him, but crucially the rear bullets that sit behind the rear wheels appear to be intact.
Oh, they did a great job avoiding that, didn't they?
Once and then backwards, and got perilously close to the plastic barriers, which I think are right in front of the harder Armco barrier right behind, but he avoided both. And yes, the avoidance of 2 cars behind him was like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Yep.
Out of turn 5 and through 6 and 7 will go the 32 of Daniel Schneider, and he has just ahead of him the MV2S Forestier racing car of Christophe Cresp. So that sort of retains the livery that MV2S ran with last year.
Correct.
Without the Forestier backing. And then you've got the green and white car. We haven't caught a glimpse of too much, actually, but it's doing very well. We rest assured of that. Jerome Desadelier running second.
Yeah, just 3 seconds off the lead at the moment, and fending off Alexander Matchel in the Racing Spirit Alon number 10 car by 2.3 seconds right now. So some hard running going on here.
Through Senior into Beausset, the fight for 18th position is the one we're witnessing. Christophe Cresp and Daniel Schneider. Jonathan Brossard about 5 seconds away from this. And are these two likely to catch anybody in the near future? Well, Alexander Talkanitsa has got a bit of a stride on, actually, and is running in 17th place in the number 9 car. Freddie Hunt still trying to recover for Reiter, and he's running in 9th place behind Louis Saint-Join for Graf Racing, just heading out of turn 2 now, and a fair bit of curb there for Mo Smith in number 69.
Yeah, Racing Spirit Le Mans team manager for the car 43, running 16th the hands of Jacques Wolf. The team manager there is being asked to go immediately to race control. Not usually good news.
Tends not to be.
No.
They don't generally want a cup of tea and a biscuit.
No, it's not kind of, I've seen something on the internet you'd be quite interested in. It's normally more meaningful than that.
More to the point.
Yes.
Graf Racing CD Sport are absolutely nose to tail for 5th and 6th. So Fabrice Rossello and Fabien Michal are, well, Michal looking the more racy. He's doing the chasing. Rossello new to the championship and, well, has taken to it pretty well, but cannot hold back Michal out of senior corner. And the 37 is now ahead of car 57.
CD Sport coming through, the 37 car. The kind of cherry red and yellow colours stand out in any field. Moves ahead of the 57 car.
Rossello, who competed in the Asian Le Mans series, did he do all 4 races with G-Drive? They were 2 separate weekends, so yes, it was very easy for him to do that in a JSP 320 once again.
That was a Graf run car, and it was a topsy-turvy season in Asia for the LMP3 field.
So it was Graf with G-Drive,
Yes, it was.
Okay,
yeah.
So a bit of branding on top of the French squad. But prior to that, he hadn't raced for 6 years.
Wow.
So a welcome back to motorsport for Fabrice Rossello of France.
69 car here, part of a rejuvenated Cool Racing effort. In 10th position with Mo Smith. Not seen Mo this weekend. I don't know whether or not the beardage is still...
Oh, I would imagine it's still very much there, and of course no longer covered up by a mask,
Yeah.
which was a
Well, I
peculiar
say covered
sight.
up by it would be a big mask.
True. It did rather protrude, left, right, bottom, top. You could always tell it was Mo on the way.
Yeah, and Mo will be part of the LMP3 pole-sitting effort in the European Le Mans Series, together with Mikey Benham and Malte Jakobsen.
Good dicing between Jonathan Brossard and Sean Lynn right now. So Brossard competing for 20th place in the ANS Motorsport machine.
So ANS, a team we did see last season. They started the season Barcelona, I think, last year in a DES chassis, and then we didn't see them again. There's this car, we get the chance to see that car up close, all over carbon finish, but with a really quite beautiful. Oh, that was. Well, how can I put this? Gently.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Edgy.
It was one of those moments where the vice was closing, you know, that little keyhole that you're aiming for was almost not there for Freddie Hunt and others involved. It was one of the 3 GMB Motorsport Hondas involved as well.
He doesn't like any of his dad's drive, does he?
He's certainly not, no. So was that Louis Saint-Join for Graf that he was trying to pass
Quite
at the time?
possibly.
Because Freddie Hunt is sandwiched between Saint-Join and the Mo Smith car.
2 Nielsen cars together, 7 and the 4. Will be Tony Wells, John Melson. Tony Wells, of course, with Colin Noble, the defending champions here.
And you'll notice eagle-eyed viewers that one is Duquesne, i.e. the 4, and one is a Ligier, the 7. So is that down to personal preference?
It is indeed.
As far as the drivers are concerned.
It's down to personal preference, I think, about the car owner is what it comes down to. And it's got to the stage where, you know, just 2 or 3 years ago, it wasn't unusual to see a mixed.
Well, no, M Racing did it for a few years.
They did.
And I don't think that was driven necessarily by drivers and who owned cars. It was more of a question of we don't know which is better, so we'll have one of each. But in the case of Nielsen, it is a decision dictated by their customers, effectively.
I believe so, yeah.
And the cars that were already in their possession. But it's useful data, I would imagine, from a Nielsen point of view. Because then if you're attracting future customers, you say, well, we've run both, so it's up to you.
And indeed they have before. So they have run, we had seasons where they ran just Ligers, and we had seasons when they've run just Normas / Duquesnes. Torsten Kratz pulling away a little now, 4 seconds to the good, but Alexander Mitchell still hanging on in there with Jerome de Saddelier. This is pretty close stuff. They are pulling away though from Charlie Cruz. Fabien Michel just a little way back as well.
Klaus Abelin's off the road again.
Time.
That was at senior corner. You never have a small incident at the end of the Mistral straight. He nearly took somebody with him as well. Was there contact? Tricky to tell from that angle.
I don't think so.
Well, it certainly wasn't afterwards. It was at 22 that I saw going through shot. And well, that's a United Autosports car, so it's not the right livery for that, unless Latour has a slightly...
I don't know, it is a United Autosports car, but that's the Revere Coffee livery car.
Gotcha.
So they've got 3 traditionally liveried cars, and then the all-Australian crewed car, which is in a completely different...
Andras Latour, who did some good avoidance driving there as well.
We'll see Garnet Patterson in that car later, the Adelaidean.
Freddie Hunt going out of the left-hander at turn 7 and onto the Mistral straight. Car 76 there for Reiter has still not got ahead of Louis Saint-Juin. Maurice Smith pursuing behind. It's closer, actually, from an attacking point of view for Mo Smith than it is for Freddie Hunt catching up with the Graf Racing Swiss-driven 40 car. They reach the top of the hill. You can have top of the hill here at this relatively flat circuit, but there is some gradient change. It's not nothing in comparison to Spa, for example, or Red Bull Ring, where we've been in the past, but a little bit up and down nevertheless. And the track walk / cycle event that happened on Thursday will have been helpful for that, as out of Virage Dupont will go the scrapping Jerome de Saddelier. Now, as I said, Matt, not seen a great deal of the green and white car from MV2S, but he's running in 2nd place, and that gap's coming down now to Alexander Matchell in 3rd, or Matchell closing the gap to the Swiss.
Yep, that gap under a second for the first time in just quite a few laps now. We are 37 minutes into this 1 hour 50-minute encounter, and 14 laps under the wheels of the leading cars.
Emanuele Busnelli snaking his way through the Virage du L'Hôtel and Virage du Camp at turn 5 in the Dayglow yellow and blue Ebby Motors Porsche. So Ebby Motors running 4th in GT3 behind the two of the GMB Motorsport Honda NSXs, Christian Paulsen and Jens Muller, and then it is Gino Forgione in the AF Corse Ferrari number 61 that he is sharing with Andrea Montemini.
Yes, that's Andrea Montemini.
Yes, quite.
The one-time, if not more than one time, Formula 1 driver. Saw Andrea last year for several races. I don't think it was quite a full season. And running very wide is one of the Hondas.
I think that's the
44.
class leader, isn't it?
It's the 44.
2nd place, therefore. Yes, with the yellow door mirrors and skirts. So it's Christian Paulsen who continues to lead in 55, 44. Jens Muller 2nd. Forgione in the 61 Ferrari is 3rd. Is that Forgione, in fact, coming into the final corner and being lapped by the 2nd and 3rd place cars? It's either the 61 or the 51.
61.
Yeah, that is. He's Forgione, running in 3rd place in GT3 and overtaken by de Saddelier and Matchell, who have half a second between them.
Yeah. So 61 pushing on. There's 10 seconds, by the way, ahead of Emanuele Busnelli's Porsche at the moment, but this pair not quite tussling yet, but you tend to think that's coming. This is a problem out oh dear me, that's the A&S car. Now that's gone a long way the wrong way.
At turn 6.
The
safe side of
the Castellet.
Yes, it was. It was the safe side of the curbing, but that's the last thing you want if you're heading out of turn 5 to see headlights in your direction. So that might be looked at again. Car 6 is Jonathan Brossard, who obviously had a spin at 6 and then was wanting to recover. Quite a bit of weaving now from Hugo de Sadelier. Is he feeling the pressure from Alexander Maxwell? In the braking area, you're generally only allowed one move, one change of direction, but he's trying to break that toe down the Mistral straight, feeling under pressure here, the Swiss.
Jerome.
Did I say Hugo?
Yeah.
I'm going to make that mistake several times this season. I warn you. Jerome de Sadelier, with all of his experience from the UK in radicals and further afield as well in Europe. I mean, I assume he's raced here before in radical competition, so at least he will know the track. But these closed cockpit prototypes will have taken some adjusting. And Jerome de Sadelier then not yet been overtaken by Alexander Maxwell. Maxwell's getting closer, under half a second now. And he's almost under the rear wing of Jerome de Sadelier as they head out of the final corner and back across the stripe. An hour and 20 minutes to go. And the gap is still half a second, second to third. This is playing nicely into the hands of WTM Racing, though. Torsten Kratz, brilliant performance earlier for qualifying, but retains the race lead.
But he's not getting away. It's still 4.2 seconds. So this, whatever this fight is, it's not holding them up. They've still got him very, very much in sight. So whatever's going on with this pair, they've not broken the toe to Torsten Kratz, the WTM car. It's not what we'd normally see with a fight like this, that it allows the leading car to just edge away at a half a second lap. That's not happened at all. There is the leading car. There are the second and third place cars.
More warning flags for drivers that are abusing the track limits. Crichton Lentudis is the latest to be added to that list. Mark Crader a little bit earlier on. We've got one that's a pink banner and one that's an orange banner on our timing screen. I don't think there's a difference, actually. No, that one's not more serious than the other. They are just warnings at this stage. As 22nd place, dicing between Team Virage and United Autosports. So Rob Hodes, John Schaumann. Schaumann's pace should be, or representative pace, should be this car higher up the order. But remember that dramatic spin at turn 1 has rather forced him to be scrapping just outside the top 20.
Full course yellow is going to be coming, and that will happen in about 30 seconds time.
What's that going to be for then? Debris?
What might well be debris. I would say, by the way, the other change we've seen is just it's an inconsequential position in class. It's for the number 27 LMP3 car, in 30th place overall now for the 24/7 Motorsport car, Andrew Ferguson. But in getting by the GT3 leader, that has delayed Christian Poulsen, and the gap now down to 10 seconds between the 55 and 44.
Into the full course yellow we will go. And the reason for this is not immediately obvious, because we have no cars stopped on the circuit, so maybe some areas need to be swept. We had quite a lot of spins so far, and potentially cars bringing, well, floppies onto the track, marker posts, or maybe just a bit of dirt here and there. But a full course yellow after just over half an hour of running. It's been run at, it feels like a relentless pace, breakneck speed. Marshals are out on track at Virage de l'Hôtel to, I'm guessing it's going to be to recover something that's been drawn out of its mountings.
It's Bollard.
There we go. So that is at turn 5. And rather than slot it back into position, they're just going to scratch that.
That's going to be put in the dead Bollard park, which I'm sure is extensive here.
Yeah, so moved out of the way just to make sure that it isn't collected. And although they weigh a fair bit, it doesn't take much for a car to hit it, ping it up into the air, and then who knows where it's going to land. So much better to retrieve that. And that will take some racing minutes away from those in the cars at this stage. but nothing too dramatic. Still, the lion's share of the cars in the top 10 are Ligier's, but it's the Duquesne of WTM Racing that stays out front. Time now is 11.5 seconds, but that's extended significantly because we're under a full course yellow run to 80 kilometres per hour. Everybody limited to that speed.
And with
so plenty of cars on the Mistral straight, including the race leader number 11 being driven by Torsten Kratz. He did the qualifying time earlier on, but let's catch up with his teammate Leo Weiss now with Haley.
I'm joined here by Leonard Weiss, driver of car number 11 of WTM Racing. We didn't get to chat earlier after the pole because you ran off to congratulate Torsten. Great, obviously, start of the season with the pole. What are your thoughts on the race so far?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Torsten's doing a great job in the lead, doing a good race so far, and yeah, let's see if we can continue like that and finish the race. That would be awesome.
And you obviously raced here last year together. You also do Prototype Cup Germany. I mean, what do you think? What makes you such a kind of a good team together? Why does it work between you guys?
Yeah, I think we work really good together. Like also outside the track, we are good friends. We have nice evenings, and yeah, I think Torsten is also a very competitive guy. Yeah, so it's really fun with him.
And just a word on the field. I mean, they've got 38 cars out there. What are your thoughts on it this year?
Yeah, I think the field this year is a lot more competitive than last year, especially with a lot of gold drivers this year compared to last year. Yeah, so it's going to be tough. We're off to a good start, but let's see what we can make out of this.
And it'll be up to you to finish the job.
Yeah, I will try my best. We will see.
Great, thank you very much, Lennon.
Thank you.
That's Leo Weiss with Haley Edmonds. Did have a one-off appearance in the European Le Mans Series last year at the Red Bull Ring when he raced with Laurence Roux as part of DKR Engineering's lineup. But that didn't go any further, that relationship with DKR, but it was more of a guesting from WTM because Leo and his family, Weiss, Georg Weiss, his dad, basically WTM as far as I know, the family hail from Monschau, and it's Wochenspiegel Team Monschau that are effectively the sponsorship name for that Rinaldi Racing run car.
absolutely. News, by the way, before she went on air with that interview from Haley, there was an ECU problem that caused the late addition to the race for Rinaldi Racing. So clearly they've managed to plug something in, maybe a new ECU. Steve Parrott, by the way, is still in 38th position. I think before we went to this full course yellow, we'd reduced the gap to the 37th place car to something about 30 to 40 seconds.
So, an indication shortly, I'm sure, to all the drivers about how much longer it's going to be before we get going. Oh, we've had that.
Yep, it's going to be 20 seconds.
Not very long at all.
Guess
therefore.
what we're going to hear in about 10 seconds.
Here it comes.
15 seconds to remove full course yellow.
He just did that to make me wrong.
He's clearly listening, Eduardo Freitas.
7, 6, 5.
He tells me he doesn't listen to us.
3.
We put him in the majority, in fairness.
Full course yellow removed. Full course yellow.
I was told he wouldn't be able to do this race directory without us, to be honest, because we're pointing stuff out that he hadn't already spotted.
He did tell me that in his busy schedule, he sleeps nights better knowing that you and I are here.
Yeah, it's the truth.
In fairness, I think he means that you and I are here rather than race control.
Bothering him, prodding him from behind, yeah, I can understand that. Jerome de Sadelier, not the race leader, but he is in second, and crucially he's ahead of Alexander Maxwell, remaining the case at the restart. So underneath the Circuit Paul Ricard bridge they will go, and is there a bit of a forlorn look down at Racing Spirit of Le Mans, almost as if they'd had a message from race control, not quite sure. We'll monitor that as the two cars, DKR and Racing Spirit of Le Mans, are together on track. DKR Engineering have been many times the defending champions. Not the case in 2022. Nielsen Racing took the championship in 2021. That's Tony Wells and Colin Noble.
What surprises me is we've got one of the Racing Spirit of Le Mans cars going by one of the DKR cars. how gaps continue to tumble during full course yellow periods. 2.7 seconds is the lead gap now. It's over 4 seconds before. Notably, Jens Moller, who was 10 seconds back from Christian Poulsen, is now 2.6 seconds back.
Yeah, there's 29 thousandths of a second. No, there's not even that, because there's a change of position. Alexander Matchel on the main straight has got ahead of Jerome de Sadelier. Well, he was right on his gearbox as they crossed the line, and probably partly alongside. And Matchel wasn't going to be asked twice there in the run into turn one. Maybe just a better run out of the full course yellow. Jerome de Sadelier relatively inexperienced about restarts, whereas Matchel's done many in this championship, so perhaps that was telling, as Freddie Hunt's been overtaken
That's
by...
not Freddie, that's the Optimum car.
Ah, OK, so the 20 car's been overtaken of Mark Crader by a United Autosports car, which I wasn't able to identify. Sean Lynn, thank you.
10 seconds added. Oh, there's trouble there. That's a replay. It was a spin. It was a spin for... Didn't see that whether or not there was contact before it, but the MV2S car spun.
Can't have been much of a spin,
and
because he was still right with him at turn one. And a slow car now running down towards turn one as well. That's a puncture, I think.
It is a puncture.
Rear right, which has taken the bullet with it as well, and way off the road at senior corner a few moments ago.
It's a Vantage car.
And that's number 33, which is hastily rejoining.
In 23rd place. So all of a sudden, it's all gone wild and crazy. Now, is that the tyre, or is that the rear bodywork? It's the rear bodywork off as well, the 44 car.
Jens Moller from second in GT3, and so far he's held on to second place, but he spun right behind Jerome de Sadelier, who's recently slipped to third position at the Double Droite de Beausset.
That's going to be costly.
It's a very fast part of the circuit to be going off the road as well.
That's what caused the problem for the number 40 car. That was a tag from the 14.
Which is Alexander Bukantsov, and Bukantsov's caught the rear right, which has dislodged the bullet at the very least. So Jacques Wolf having to limp his car around the remaining part of the lap. Has it taken the tyre down with it? He'd done amazingly well if it hasn't, but the problem is that the cheese wedge-shaped piece of bodywork that sits behind the rear tyre is flapping around, and the team will need to secure that, because that's an integral part. No, it's not, as we've learned through the years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cable ties do not solve that.
That cost Jens Moller, by the way, something like 15, 16 seconds. So what had been 2 or 3 seconds is back up to 20 seconds now. But it's a mark of the pace of those two Hondas at the front of this field. He's still a further 20 seconds ahead of the third place car.
The other DKR engineering car heading into Beausset as well. So that is John Brownson, car number 3, running in 23rd spot. Jack Wolf being shown as stopped on the race circuit, as Jerome de Sadelier is not at the right line at all for senior corner. I thought that was going to be a much bigger moment than it turned out to be, but he was over on the right-hand side in the dust.
I think just behind there was what looked to be almost an incident between the Edex Sport car and the Honda.
So it's de Sadelier trying to get back ahead of Matchel, and it didn't quite work, but he got a really good tow.
It was just after that, it looked to be very close. Charlie Cruz trying to follow through and take some advantage here, almost coming together with the Honda behind him. It's gone crazy at the moment. This is a bit more like a Michelin Le Mans Cup race.
Yeah, well, it was relatively sedate in the early phase, before the track was needing to be addressed or swept and the bollard to be recovered. De Sadelier's got way more pace now than Alexander Matchel.
What is going on here?
Well, it's perhaps just the draft that each car is picking up, because that hole in the air seems to be working so well for whichever car is doing the chasing. No way through at turn 1, though, for the Swiss. But Alexander Matchel must have been thinking, well, I was catching you in the early part of this stint, no problem. Got the move done, thinking I'll be able to stretch my legs and pull away. Just not happened.
Yep.
I never got the feeling Jerome de Sadelier was going to take that line down somehow, and so it has proven. Emanuele Busnelli, meanwhile, for Ebby Motors in the Dayglow yellow and blue Porsche GT3R. In amongst company, because the Bullet Racing Aston Martin of Stephen Patrick is right with him, and cars facing the wrong way at 13 as well.
Okay, so he's caught him. It's a much quicker lap last time around from the
That was the 43 car, I reckon, that was facing the wrong way. Car 43 is the racing. Oh, Jack Wolf.
That's the problem.
So he's had a further spin and is now on the inside of turn 13.
Which is not where he needs to be.
Through
to get to the pits.
No, it's not. You're trying to get to the pits. They're the other side of the track.
You've got to wonder how long. Is it safe for him to get across the track? Could we be looking at another caution?
Well, the problem is I think he's going to have to go slightly against the flow of traffic and cross the track. So
waiting
that
for
will
him.
need a full course yellow, in my opinion, but we'll wait and see.
Right. No further action for the contact between cars 6 and 9. And that was the ANS Motorsport car and the AT Racing car.
Jack Wolf still stopped at turn 13, as far as we can tell. Two Team Virage cars crossed the line as one, and they are together on the screen as well. So Rob Hode's ahead of Alexandre Yvon.
I think he might have made pit lane slowly, but I think think he might have made it.
Oh well, fair play to Jack Wolf, who had a good view, I suppose, through the right-hand, the right side window, so his side of when he sits on the car of
there we go,
the gaps in the traffic.
Yeah, I can confirm he's definitely in pit lane.
So Racing Spirit of Le Mans, their crew will be able to now work on fixing that car. Very, very busy down at Virage du Combe, and it has ripped that tyre to pieces. Now, whether that tyre was down initially, who knows? It's gone on the inside wall, the inside shoulder, and that was the contact from the DKR engineering machine at Virage du Pont, and he had to do a full lap with the bullet falling off the car and the tyre letting an awful lot of air out of it.
I can explain why the EB Motors car had that slow lap. It was contact with the leader. It's the overall leader for Emanuele Busnelli. Car 31, meanwhile, has been reported to the stewards for abusing track limits, and that is this early in the season. Trying to remember who's who. That is the AF Corsa Quattro-Landudis car, and yeah.
So the picture on the right-hand side is Racing Spirit of Le Mans offering a new bullet to the car. Meanwhile, on the left of your picture, the fight between Matchell and de Sadelier continues on. The green and white car not as close now to the second place machine.
There's someone else off in the background in that shot.
Stephen Patrick's pitted, by the way, in the black Aston Martin.
Was that the 24/7 car or Quattro-Landudis?
It looks like the Landudis livery, but not fully sure.
Charlie Cruz is fancying his chances here. He's closer than they'd like, with the CD Sport car also in contention here. We've got 5 cars within 5 seconds for the lead of this race.
There is a mandatory pit stop to do, remember, in this race. 3 cars into one. Kind of did work, actually, at Virage du L'Hôtel, but it looked like it wouldn't for a long period of time. But there are cars starting to pit now, is the point, both in GT3 and LMP3. So reaching a point now where some fuel can be taken on board and driver changes to happen as well. All of the cars entered with 2 drivers and needing to do that switch around.
Yep, Martin Rich on pit lane for RLRM Sport. John Melson will hand over to Matt Bell. Both the Team Virage cars on pit lane as well. Car 33 is reported to the stewards for abusing track limits. I think I've already said that. No, I'm not. That's another one. So we've got penalties coming at some point. They won't be being served by the drivers that incurred them.
It's Rob Hodes in one of the 2 Virage cars that have found one another. They did that a couple of laps ago and been running nose to tail ever since then. Ian Rodriguez to take over the Rob Hodes car, and probably one of the first jobs he'll need to do in his stint is serve that penalty.
Alexander Matchell, by the way, has broken the toe from Jerome de Sadelier, is now right with Torsten Kratz. I wonder if with that contact, did the leader suffer some damage? Because that gap, there was 4 seconds, is under a second now. Here it is, and it has got smoke trailing from the number 11 car.
Yeah.
Was that just a bit of a brake grab, or has he lost a bit of pace here?
Well, the last lap around was a 1:54.5. We have seen better than that for the race leader. 0.388 of a second now between Matchell and Kratz. Is something vibrating at higher speed on that car? I can't see any smoke
He
now.
might just been a brake grab into the final turn, but he's lost something like 3.5 seconds.
So Leo Weiss, who we were hearing from with Haley Edmonds not too long ago, now fully focused with the helmet and hands device on, ready to take over this car from Torsten Kratz, the man from Wuppertal, and Alexander Matschel. So 2 Germans at the sharp end, one for Wochenspiegel Team Monschau Racing, the other for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. And Matschel, having had to really weather the storm up against Jerome de Sadelier, has now left the Swiss in his wheel tracks. He's still visible on the Mistral straight in the mirrors, but he'll be fully locked on this leading Duquesne from WTM.
Under 5 seconds between the top 5, and some of that damage has been that's top 5, 4.9 seconds is the gap.
A larger gap back to Fabrice Rossello. Fabien Michel will be one to look out for, because his car's clearly set up to go well down the Ligne Droite de Mistral, because he's just done the fastest middle sector of anybody in the CD Sport Car, 37.
Freddie Hunt out of the Wright Engineering car. A spirited stint aboard the 76. Steve Parrow pits number 66 car. Did not make it by any of the other traffic, but closed the gap to just about nothing in his stint from a lap back.
Car 31 being told it must respect the track limits. That's the AF Corsa car of Len Dudis again, and it's potentially going to be a massive penalties if those track limits are abused by a few cars now that are kind of on a yellow plus card, if you like. The next step would be a drive-through penalty.
We're under an hour to the end of this race. Of course, that's not the halfway point anymore. An hour and 50 minutes for 2022.
And quite a large section of the middle order now coming into the pit. Well, they've become the middle order because they've made a pit stop. And one of 2 Graf Racing cars in, so Fabrice Rossello happy to stay out, but the team, the French Graf squad, have told Louis Saint-Join they want him in now. Car 40 for Swiss driver Saint-Join, and it'll be Theo Vaucher to take over that car.
It's going to be drive-through penalties for both car 31, that is the AF Corsa car. Rui Aguas will be aboard that car, if not already then shortly, and also the car 33 we mentioned earlier. That's the car that's just been taken over by Ian Rodriguez from Rob Hoad, wasn't it?
Yes. The problems for track limits for Crichton Lentudis have got worse, because he's now been given a drive-through penalty in car 31. So that will delay. And remember, you can't do a drive-through penalty at the same time as your scheduled pit stop with the driver change and fueling.
So it's effectively going to cost about 30 seconds for a drive-through here.
Yeah. Still, the gap first to second is next to nothing. Jerome de Sadelier is going to bolt his way onto the back of this as well. So it'll be a 3-way dice, all catching quite a bit of curve on the exit of Virage du Pont. There is one of the 2 AF Corsa Ferraris just in front to get by, and Torsten Kratz should be able to do that with relatively little time lost. But Matschel wants to do the same, and he can't, because the Ferrari's got to turn in at some point and takes to the natural apex, and here comes de Sadelier, who spots that all unfolding in front of him. The patience game for the Swiss. The man from Lausanne will take second place back again. Absolutely
brilliant stuff from de Sadelier. Waited for the opportunity and the mistake. The mistake came. It wasn't much, probably cost him a 10th or 2. Bottled up behind the Ferrari, that was all he needed. But more to the point, left the gap on the inside. And like a rat on a chip, not in any way saying, of course, John is anywhere like a rodent. Not that would be wrong and unfair, but like a rat on a chip, goes through into second place. And watch the 2 cars behind here as well. Charles Cruz has not been dropped at any point by this group.
Again, De Sadeleer having the need to weave from left to right, but he can't get the car over to the right-hand side to defend into senior corner, and Matchell getting the toe, as we've seen a number of times. And look at the fourth place car also getting involved as well. Charles Cruz, who was way back, what, 5-10 minutes ago for Edex Sport, being drawn into this. Unfortunately for this trio, they've rather kissed goodbye to Torsten Kratz now. Is that a bit of smoke coming out the back of Cruz's car as well? Maybe just dust, actually, as he picked it up offline. CD Sport in the mixture as well. Fabien Michal been setting absolute best, as did Cruz actually on the last lap around. Middle sector again. So we know now that the Cruz Edex Sport car is good down the Mistral. Likewise, Fabien Michal. And this is all coming to a head. We are in the pit stop window, but none of these are taking to it apart from Matchell. Alexander Matchell does stop. And that might not be a bad move, actually, to get out of the craziness, the manic area of this race. Well,
Charlie Cruz being this close to Sadeleer, and with the speed we know he's got down the main straights, this could be another telltale move. Telling move at this stage of the race. 55 minutes to go. We are now halfway, or we will be in about 30 seconds. Tries around the outside. There's no way there on the inside. He's going to be looking to get as close as he can with the pick that is the slower LMP3 car ahead here.
De Sadeleer's tyres have gone, I think, because he's not meeting the apex of any of those corners. 3, 4, 5. The car looking all of a sudden very wayward, whether that's a slow puncture or it's just he's pushed his tyres incredibly hard. But he will lose out, I think, to Charles Cruz. No, not quite.
It's coming, though. It's coming.
Yeah.
Meantime, GT3 leader on pit lane from the GMB Motorsport crew. That puts Jens Moller back into the lead for the moment at least. Didn't manage to get it done there, but that's brought the CD Sport car into it.
Here comes Fabien Michal. That was a back marker they were getting by the way.
This is great stuff.
It is truly exciting, enthralling action in the opening round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Very sideways there for CR Cruz, and that might be Michal's opportunity as they head into Bondor corner, and Garlaban is next, this long lingering right-hander. Then the hard stop at Virage du Lac, and Michal gains ground under braking there, but there is no way by Cruz in the last couple of corners of this particular lap.
Quick laps coming, by the way, from some of the pro drivers clubbing aboard the cars. Fastest lap of the race goes to the car at the moment in 9th place. It's RLRM Sports 53 car, now in the hands of Tommy Foster, a 1:51.573 with yellow flags at turn 6.
Torsten Kratz 2.4 seconds in front of Jerome de Sadeleer, so Kratz I think's been delayed through some traffic, and a 4-second gap is steadily coming down once again.
It's going to be a drive-through, by the way, for the number 14 D-Car Engineering car. That was the Duquesne. That was the clash a little earlier with car 43.
AT Racing Team just in front of Jerome de Sadeleer, with Alexander Taukenitz, a senior, driving that. Unless there's been a driver change.
Trouble there. That's one of it's one of the Cool Racing cars. It's Malte Jakobsen having just come out. It is.
Yes, it is. Malte Jakobsen's just taken that car over from Maurice Smith, and the car grinds to a halt at turn 5.
Side by side with Charles Cruz and Jerome de Sadeleer. Can't get it done again.
Stick, Cruz wasn't quite there.
It was the AT Racing car.
Yeah, the AT car that they're trying to get by. And what I was trying to work out is whether the AT Racing car's been into the pits and done their driver change. Yes, it is Alexander Taukenitz, a junior now, taking over from Dad.
So it is the top 6 cars overall are the only cars that have not been down pit lane as we stand at the moment. MV2S Forestier Racing lead the race with the pit stop underway. No, W10 Racing's got a bit of a problem with the timing scoring as well, shown as being stopped, which they aren't. So a transponder issue there, I think. So Torsten Kratz is in the pits. That's what's gone on. Now Jerome de Sadeleer leads and goes through for another lap. Kratz is in. Charlie Cruz is in. Fabien Michal is in. Sean Lynn pits, hand over to his son. So Jerome de Sadeleer will get a bit of blissful release from the unending pressure over the last, what is it, hour and, well, it's just over an hour, just under an hour rather. He's now in clear air for the first time in 60 minutes and will be in, I'm sure, very soon.
Yeah, but what he can't afford to do, now it's all gone quiet in front and behind, is to dip the pace, because you just know once he does his pit stop and everything is back on an even keel, he'll have traffic all around him and potentially in front of him as well, if the crews of CD Sport and EDEX Sport can get their pit stops to near perfection. They stand the chance, a strong chance, of leapfrogging MV2S Forestier Racing with number 29.
Remember, these are timed pit stops for these teams. A single time pit stop for this year.
So all very chilled down at WTM Racing, because there's less haste, more speed. That front right wheel was very casually placed on the hub, but done up in great time, and actually everything has been completed well in front of time, so they're just now waiting for the clock to tick down, as is the case with CD Sport.
I'm going to make a prediction that the second place car at the moment in GT3 will not stay there for the rest of the race. Bullet Racing up to second place with Teo Nue up now aboard the number 99 car, but their pit stop 30 seconds quicker than anybody else's.
In has come Jerome de Sadelia, who overtakes the 11 car briefly in the pit lane, but that's because the space within MV2S is much further down. In fact, it might be after the break in the pit building and in the second part of the pit lane, therefore. Away from the Rinaldi Racing stand will go the WTM Racing car of now Leo Weiss, who's taken over from Torsten Kratz. Jerome de Sadelia will be leaping out after a very entertaining stint for him as well, and Louis Rousset will take that car over.
Just waiting for Sean Lynn to pit now. I think it's the final pit stop. Must admit, I thought I'd seen him there. Out comes Leo Weiss. Wait to see how this all pans out.
So Louis Rousset, who will be the new man into the 29 car, just 23 years old after a single season of FFSA GT4 racing in France at AM level. Rousset being the silver-rated driver to take charge of car 29.
I think this is Leo Weiss with Tom Dillman right behind him for position. It is. That's the 10 car on the 11 car. This is for position with the two cars ahead of them now on pit road. So this is effectively the battle for the lead. WTM, Racing Spirit Le Mans. Tom Dillman goes to the inside.
Barreling their way down the Mistral straight, and Leo Weiss hasn't covered this line into senior corner. Can he continue this pace? No chance around the outside. So Tom Dillman rather has caught Leo Weiss napping there, and the Duquesne that has led virtually every lap to this point all of a sudden gives up, relinquishes its grasp at the sharp end. Now that's not going to be displayed on the screen for a little while yet, because Sean Lynn, who was one of the late pit stoppers, and Jerome de Sadelia shown in front of both of those cars, but this should unfold, if not for the race lead, then incredibly close to it, as the clock continues to tick down for Louis Rousset, who will be taking the 29 car back into the race. Surely it's going to move very, very soon indeed. Remember, the pit stops are timed from pit in to pit out, so the team need to be so careful not to bring. Here he comes, coming out of pit lane, and he will be ahead of the number 11 car of Leo Weiss. Will he be ahead of Tom Dillman?
Yes, he is.
Yes, just. But Dillman's going to be all over the back of Louis Rousset, and if he's going to need to pounce right now, as Rousset's still adjusting to the car on his opening lap. Tom Dillman's done a lap after the pit stop, and up the inside he will go. This is crucial for Racing Spirit of Le Mans.
So Tom Dillman makes two crucial passes in under a single lap. Jetting off into the distance somewhat. WTM Racing's Leo Weiss, by the way, now under pressure from Dino Lonardi in the EDEX Sport car for third place. Trouble there for the 53 car of Tommy Foster. That car had been sixth position. What happened here? That was a clash with the Fricadelli car.
Yeah. Tommy Foster also, according to a graphic a few moments ago, had the fastest lap of the race.
He did,
as well.
correct, but that's been now taken by
Laurence Heur. Remember that guy?
Yes, he's done in 22nd place, having just climbed aboard the car, but...
yeah, so Laurence taking over from John Brownson, the second DKR engineering car, rather going beneath the radar to this point. What an opening stint for Jérôme de Sadeleer in ACO Rules Racing. Let's hear from him, from Haley.
I'm joined here by Jérôme de Sadeleer, driver of car number 29. So it was a very dramatic, eventful stint for you out there. Can you just take us through it? You know, you managed to make up the time after that spin when you pitted. You pitted first with the decision, of course, by the team to keep you out a bit longer.
Well, yeah, let me start by saying this was my first ever LMP3 race, so a lot of learning quickly about tire degradation, etc. I got a pretty good start, had to defend quite aggressively, actually, because I think the back had a bit of a jump. The Duquesne car that was in front of me had a very good rhythm, but as I suspected, when the tires came off, he lost a lot of pace, and that with me and the other Ligier that overtook me, we were able to make up a lot of ground to eventually catch him. Tire degradation on the rear was pretty strong. I had a big spin before the last chicane, and I don't know, I managed to do some drift move and get it straight back on, bang it to second, and I was pretty much where I was when I did the little spin, so kind of proud of myself there.
Your teammate Louis Rousset has just jumped in the car, currently lying in second place. I mean, what do you think he's going to what he's going to have to do to really kind of get that first place?
Louis is a huge talent. Every car he's ever been in, he gets in and he's on the pace. So, you know, I think he has the potential, if he stays calm and has a very kind of leveled and leveled throttle, he's going to be able to make up some space and maybe overtake.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Jérôme de Sadeleer, I detected that the car was nowhere towards the end of his stint and the apex at 3, 4, 5, 6, and I thought his tyres had sort of gone off a cliff. It's interesting that he says degradation is something he's really going to have to get his mind around, and you'd spotted the spin as well towards the end of the lap. But I have to say, car control, when you take all that into account, was mighty.
And he's right, after the spin he lost nothing, so it was remarkable really. 69 car of Milton Jacobsen. Sadly we won't get to see the young Dane attack this race under tow, and that car is out. Drive-through is coming for car 6 for overtaking car 31 in the first full course yellow. That is the ANS Motorsports Ligier. Nicolas Schatz at the moment at the wheel of that car in 24th place.
Not all bad for Malte Jakobsen today, though. Did take pole earlier in LMP3 qualifying for the European Le Mans Series, so their cool racing car will start from pole tomorrow.
Correct.
Mikey Benham, Mo Smith as part of that trio as well. So looking forward to Malte getting some good race time during the 4 hours of Le Castellet.
But you know racing drivers, what's his overpowering emotion going to be at the end of the day? Damn! Didn't get the chance to race.
Yeah. Horror. I mean, yeah, you build all of your day to a late afternoon, early evening race, and then on your out lap it all goes wrong through no fault of your own. Tough to take, but it's the mark of a good sports person to be able to say, park that's today, move on to tomorrow.
So full course yellow, that will take us through to the recovery of the number 69 Cool Racing Ligier. Malte Jakobsen barely getting the chance. I don't think he got a full racing lap out of that stint. No.
Real shame. And as this full course yellow continues, we've got just under 45 minutes of the race to go, but it's been a enthralling first stint in Reiter Engineering's car for Freddie Hunt, so let's hear from him as well.
That's right, I'm down here joined by Freddie Hunt, driver of car number 76 for Reiter Engineering. I saw you when you just jumped out the car, and you had a big smile on your face. You were, you're happy to be back after Monza was your last race you were here.
Yeah, Monza last year, and I'm very happy to be back. I mean, it was quite a challenging race, but it was bloody good fun. Really enjoyed myself.
Okay, well, just take us through it. It's not too hard to kind of, so intermittently jump into an LMP3 car and, compete like this.
Well, I wouldn't say it's easy, and I was hoping to be better a little bit quicker. Qualified 6th, which to me, I mean, it's not bad, but I was hoping to be better. So, although I can't be too upset about it, I like to think I should be further up. However, no pre-season testing and a new team who are new to the car, so we're all learning. I think it is quite a tricky circuit if you haven't been here before. So yeah, I'm not too disappointed with our performance. And in the sort of second half of my stint, I was quite proud of my driving because the car was really handling badly, and I figured out how to drive it. My lap times were improving, even though the tyres were getting worse and worse, but my lap times were improving, so I was quite pleased with that.
Well, that's good. It's a good start anyway to your season, because you'll be doing the full championship with us. So thanks a lot, and thank you very much, Freddie.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, so third season, technically speaking, we see him in an LMP3 car because he did the Road to Le Mans in 2019. As Haley mentions, did the Monza round last year was it last year or the year before? No, that was 2021 with Mühlner Motorsport, and he's back again and for the full season, so very exciting. And you're right, just like his dad.
Absolutely. But yeah, well, more power to Writer Engineering. Great to see them and our other additions this season. 31 cars, let's remember, at the start of this race. We've lost just one of them. Is the Cool Racing number 69 car, because back into the race has come the number 43 Racing Spirit Le Mans car with Josh Skelton. And as I say his name, he moves ahead of the stationary Cool Racing car in the order. Tom Dillman leads the race from Le Rousset, and that gap 2.5 seconds, but it's not gone up.
No, stabilised for the moment, and that's to every credit for Louis Rousset. Tom Dillman, I mean, a name we know clearly from World Endurance Championship racing, Formula E as well, but has he ever raced in the Michelin Le Mans Cup? I would think not.
Don't think so, no.
And ever raced an LMP3 car? Probably not.
I will double check it.
He's the sort of calibre of driver that it wouldn't take many laps at all to get his head around how one of these cars behaves, and at certain points through the stint. I was very impressed with the fact that he was only on lap 2 and already having to get his sleeves rolled up to deal with overtakes that were for the race lead. And Dillman now should continue this stranglehold on the race lead.
He had one race last season for Mühlner Motorsport.
Oh, right, okay.
He did.
How easily one forgets these things.
Indeed.
But yeah, Racing Spirit of Le Mans, presumably his team for the full season. We'll wait and see. But 3.1 seconds is a decent amount of time to be playing with, so he's extended that by another 50%, effectively 2 seconds to 3, and if he can do that again in the next few laps, that will take some pressure off. Louis Rousset trying to react in the green and white MV2S racing car. Dino Lunardi, fellow Frenchman for EDEX Sport, running in 3rd spot. In GT3, it is a Honda NSX that leads, with Casper H. Jensen in that GMB Motorsport car 55, ahead of the Bullet Racing Aston Martin now. Theo Nuer, you mentioned Theo's name not too long ago. They've been just going about their business quietly and assuredly.
I am concerned about that pit stop time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I am concerned about that pit stop time. New fastest lap of the race goes to 15th place Wayne Boyd, as we were watching a change on the track for 8th position. Matt Bell dragging by the Writer Engineering number 76 Ligier of Mats Silkhaug, and Matt in the Nielsen Racing number 4 car moves up into 8th position. His next target is the 57 Graf Racing car of Ryan Harper-Ellum.
Yeah, so to make the point about the Bullet Racing Aston Martin, 2 minutes it's pit stop time, and everybody else has been over 2.5 minutes.
Correct.
So that's a massive win, and probably not a legal one, but we will leave the officials to look into that. And at the moment puts Bullet Racing in a good spot on paper. How long will that last? 2nd place for the all-black Aston Martin, and Gustav Birch. Now he's the son of team owner at GMB.
Correct.
And well, it was Jens Moller who was singing Gustav's praises earlier on, saying he's a really talented silver-rated driver. Car 44 potentially on course for 2nd position here.
Going well, being caught by Andrea Montemini. at the moment, but the rate of just about a second and a half a lap or so. We're in that phase of the race, remember, when the star LMP3 drivers are now aboard. We talked about Tom Dillman, looking a bit further down. Sean Tong is with us. 31 seconds stop and go penalty for car 99 for not respecting the minimum pit stop time. That's exactly what I was talking about what seems like 10-15 minutes ago, and that's an error by the first time a team in this series, and that's going to cost them dear. Who else is aboard? Matt Bell is up into 8th place and going well. Colin Noble, defending champion, into the top 10 now, Colin, and going quickly with cars ahead of him that are not as quick. Michael Markison going well in the Team Tour car, just outside the top 10 and going very well indeed, Team Tour. 11th place. Kai van Berlo, Wayne Boyd running more or less in formation but 15 seconds apart, 14th and 15th in the two leading United Autosports cars. And then looking down, who we got else? Garnet Patterson, Lawrence Herr, Alex Mortimer, Felipe Laza, all aboard, Rui Aguas, all aboard the cars at the moment and putting in good lap times. Things can and will change in the next half hour.
Casper H. Jensen in the 55 Honda leading the way, but we're focusing on the 88 car, which is in 7th position for Mikkel Pedersen, and that car looking to try and close the gap of 9 seconds to Luke Davenport in his AF Corsa Ferrari number 51. So 4 GT3 cars together on the screen from 29th down to 32nd overall, and a gap of Rinaldi Racing's Daniel Kylevitz, who took over the 66 from Steve Parrow, before we see 3 more GT3s. Ebby Motors and Emanuele Busnelli. Now, he came in for a driver's stop.
He did, so that must be just
yeah, must be a driver ID.
It must glitch. Be. That should by now be Fabio Babini.
Yeah.
So they're going to get a drive-through for abuse of track limits.
Babini facing 20 seconds before he can get anywhere close to Andrea Montemini. That's not going to come down in a hurry, I would suggest.
It shouldn't. That drive-through, by the way, is good news for Bullitt. They take that drive-through immediately, by the way, the stop and hold. 31 seconds they will be. It's going to cost them a minute, isn't it?
More like it, yeah.
30 seconds-ish on to get through pit lane as GMB's number 44 car in the hands of Gustav Birch goes through now to make it a 1-2 for the Danish Honda squad. Their third car, by the way, the number 88 in the hands now of Mikkel O. Pedersen. That car is running 7th and last in the class. And Montemini goes up into 3rd place with the Honda stationary. The Aston Martin stationary, apologies, Johnny.
7th place fight, very close indeed for the Duquesne, run by Nielsen Racing of Colin Noble and Michael Markison, who is in the 57, no, beg pardon, it's Ryan Harper-Ellen, I should say, in the 57 Graf Racing car.
There is the Bullitt car emerging, and it emerges ahead of the EB Motors Porsche, which has still got to do a drive-through. So that's relatively good news for the Aston Martin team. They're 4th place now, looking reasonably secure.
So yeah, Matt Bell, not Colin Noble, getting my Nielsen cars mixed up there. So Bell ahead of Harper-Ellen for 7th and 8th.
Yeah, so he's making progress. Tommy Foster is his next target, but at the moment Tommy rather quicker, albeit Matt's just had to deal with the challenge of getting by another car. So Matt Bell is on a bit of a tear right now. Tommy Foster, of the cars in the top 10, is the fastest man on the circuit right now.
150.8, which is a new personal best, so that would have been better than his earlier fastest lap had it not been stolen away from him by, who did we say, someone way down the order got the fastest lap to this point. And
there's the two DKR cars side by side, and that is Lawrence Herr going through. And that is for position. Goes by James Winslow. Lawrence Herr up into the top 20 now.
And Lawrence, his name, it was the one I was searching for because he has the fastest lap of the race, and easy to overlook that. Oh, it's Wayne now, is it?
Boyd.
Okay, so he's gone even quicker than that. Wayne Boyd with a 150.691. So Lawrence Herr, car 3, ahead of James Winslow now, car 14. That's a place change done on the main straight, and Max Lynn not very far away from, in fact, behind them now.
No, he was rather kind of, don't want to say bullied off. It was Lawrence being very firm indeed. Max decided to get out of that sticky situation, ran off on the runoff, because that's what you do on runoffs, you run off, and rejoins, having lost a couple of positions, but through and taking another position up to 18th now as Lawrence Herr, and he's taking the second decal car with him in formation. So what can be won here by Lawrence Herr is next target Emilian Cardet in the second of the MV2S for STA Racing cars, and that's 7.7 seconds further up the road.
Emanuele Busnelli's just come back in the pits for Ebi Motors.
That's his run through. That's his drive through.
Fine, but do we still think it's Babini? Anyway,
yes.
Answer that in a moment or two, because they may have that to rectify as well. Let's go down into the land of GMB Motorsport. Catch up with one of their drivers, speaking to Haley.
I'm down here with gentleman, a driver of car number 44. He started pole and then ended up getting a penalty for a jump start.
Yeah, it's a small mistake from my side. The car in front of me, he stopped totally, so to avoid to hit him in behind, I went into the middle. And of course, I know I cannot overtake him before the starting line, but yeah, it was very difficult. Maybe a little bit unfair, but end of the day, it's the rules.
Gustav's doing a good job out there. He's just gone up to second place. Gustav, he's done a good job out there. He's currently sitting in second place.
Yeah. It seems now he found the pace. It's his first race international, so I think he just needs to concentrate and show how big talent he is. I think we have a good chance to be on the podium. It looks like right now.
Great, thank you very much.
And a significant performance difference for Gustav, because he's done all his racing to this point in TCRs, whether that be in his homeland of Denmark or with Brian Madsen Sport in TCR Europe. The Birch family hail from Arns in the centre of Denmark, though, and that, I understand, is where a lot of their fast food franchises are based as well. Very similar to Julien Canal, actually, of Le Mans, and a number of McDonald's joints that Julien Canal looks after, owns in the middle of France. Well, it's a similar situation for the Birches in Denmark, hence the reason why the Golden Arches are adorning the 3 cars brought to this weekend for GMB Motorsport. Still running 1-2, not quite 1-2-3 though, because the 88 car is in 6th position in the hands of Mikkel O. Pedersen. And he, in turn, is now ahead of Luke Davenport. Fabio Babini's name does appear next to the Ebi Motors Porsche now, after that penalty that was served by him.
And actually, Mikkel Pedersen's pace is pretty good at the moment, and that's going to put Fabio Babini under some pressure if indeed he is still ahead of the third of the Hondas. It's Honda 1-2, then it's Andrea Montemini. Teo Nue has emerged in 4th place. In fact, has he just gone by Montemini? I think he has.
Yeah, Nue, having had to come into the pits in the Bullet Racing Aston Martin, is shown ahead of Montemini now.
Now that can only be Montemini.
Yeah, he's had a drama somewhere, I think.
Yes, indeed. So we'll keep an eye on Montemini's times.
Being shown as stopped on the circuit. So
no, I think that's just it's recorrected itself. It's a timing glitch.
Okay.
So apologies to any Aston Martin fans who've just fallen off the sofa.
Yeah, so Montemini's still ahead of Nue and still being shown as stopped, so clearly that's not right. And Alcamel having to insert him manually on our timing screen. So the order in GT3 is Kasper H. Jensen for GMB Motorsport, 55 Honda first, from Gustav Birch, also in a GMB Honda, 44 second, then Montemini third in the 61 Ferrari, Bullet Racing's Aston Martin, Teo Nue 4th, and the Ebi Motors Fabio Babini driven Porsche in 5th.
So this is Nielsen Racing's number 4 car in the hands of Matt Bell. Matt pushing on, he's got 10 seconds to find. He's got into terms with Tommy Foster, but he's not as quick as Foster.
There was a car off the road at turn 7 there, that was a prototype.
Black and red car, might well have been the ANS car.
Maybe, if not the 66.
Also, a new fastest lap of the race has gone to Lawrence Herr, a 150.480.
Single-digit number.
It is
ANS?
No, it's the AT racing car.
Ah, yes, okay.
Number 9 car.
Car number 9, yeah. And find that on the screen to just confirm that with this first sector time. It's a little bit slow. Anyway,
Maybe
it's
it wasn't.
It's whichever car it was has rejoined, and thankfully didn't delay 2 minutes. It might have been just into, yes, it is into sector 2 actually.
It's the ANS car. It's the ANS car.
Right. Sector 2 was a long one, yes, for the ANS machine, so that explains it.
Yeah. Should have stuck with my first guess, really, shouldn't I? But you. Tom Dillman still leading and pulling away a little now. 5.9 seconds to the good from Louis Rosset, who is under pressure now from the Deck Sport car of Dino Lonardi, under a second back from the MV2S 29 car. They're comfortably ahead now of Leo Weiss, with Sean Tong closing in on the WTM racing car in the 37 CD Sport car in 5th. Then we get to the Tommy Foster Matt Bell contest. Matt, in clear air, is able to just edge closer, but it's over 10 seconds the gap. And Tommy's still got very good pace. Gone by and pulled away a little from Brian Harper-Ellen, who is going to be coming under pressure pretty soon from Colin Noble, 2.5 seconds back. So the reigning champion getting back onto form here and contesting 8th position. Just looking further back here, Michael Marcuson with good times at the moment, as is Cian Carey. 12th position for TS Corsa, the Irishman. And then Kai van Berlo in the first of the United Autosports cars. He's running in 13th place right now. There are places to be gained on pace here, no doubt about it.
Well, not least 5th place in GT3, because here comes Michelin Pedersen from a long way back. He's very sideways indeed into turn 3, but got it done, I think. Can Fabien Babini fight back into Virage du Comp? No chance. And the Porsche has to follow the 88 car through into turn 6, and that was a hard charging Pedersen then between turns 2 and 3, made the move stick.
It's almost like a chase to get to the Mistral, at which point the Honda's just in a different league.
Yeah. Yeah, and already pulling on. I mean, this will be a good visual check, actually, of the Honda versus any other car in the GT3s. It just hasn't got a hope, the Porsche, in comparison.
I'm visualising the fitting of a tow hooks to those cars for the next race.
Quite possibly so. It was surprising to many of us quite how much pace they showed in the earlier sessions in the week, actually, or the weekend, in free practice, but they were happy to finish those sessions 1, 2 and 3. Didn't quite get the 1, 2, 3 in qualifying earlier today, but now come the race, there is no doubt about where they're finding all of their speed, and yes, perhaps a minor balance of performance adjustments to be done,
yes,
in time for Imola.
Reduction in the required number of wheels, maybe. But,
that would sort it out, yeah.
But no, it's been a great performance from them. You know, I'm not going to say faultless. There was the stumble for the number 44 car with the start. We heard from Jens Müller. We had a bit of an off for one of the cars as well. But boy, we're delighted to have them in this field.
Oh yeah, as striking as they look, and I made the point earlier on that their awning and how the cars are presented there has taken some thought, but when you stand in front of their facility, it is very, very impressive, and clearly been, you know, a number of months, if not years, in the planning, thinking ahead to future GT rules within ACO rules racing.
It's good to see 3-car Honda team being added to the list of things invented in Denmark. That includes Google Maps and the light machine gun, as well as Lego.
I would have gone with the L word first there, but I can, yeah, fair enough.
What, light machine gun?
No. Tom Dillman continues to lead. 22 and a bit minutes to go. All the pit stops that have been required by teams have been done, plus unfortunately some penalties afterwards when certain minimum pit stop reference times will run a little too close. This is a good fight in the closing stages between TS Corsa in 12th and the 32 car that was started by Daniel Schneider but is now being driven by Kai van Berlo and applying the pressure to Irishman Cian Carey. So Carey choosing his line out of turn 14, but he's gone to the right now. Will he dive to the left the last possible moment. Just edging Kai van Berlo to one side of the road, but won't be able to cover now the advances of the young Dutchman. Carey on the ragged edge, and Van Berlo will go through.
Excellent stuff from Van Berlo. Good defence from Kim Carey. But car 20, meanwhile, is going to be in some trouble. Optimum Motorsports, Alex Mortimer reported to the stewards for abusing track limits, and for that matter, the United Autosports team manager has been called to race control for car 2. That is the car currently pedalled by Max Lynn.
Carey leaping over the curbs there in order to make up for lost time, but there'll be no hanging on to, I should say, Kai van Berlo's coat tails. That ship has sailed to a certain extent. Way down the Mistral Straight he goes. Now, what happened to the CD Sport car? This time very, very wide, and the rejoin was a little bit nip and tuck. And tyres will not have been in the great condition either, having been out in the marbles, but it does look like that car made the right-hander. Sean Tong at the wheel of the CD Sport car.
But that's allowed Tommy Foster through and into fifth place for the RLRM Sport 53 team. Tommy is flying, so a slower lap for Sean Tong there. Colin Noble, meanwhile, right with Ryan Harper-Ellerman, goes by him as I speak, up into 7th place. So racking up the points. And Colin's next target is, though, 13 seconds away, and that is Sean Tong. Matt Bell is 3 seconds back from Harper-Ellerman.
Was there some contact a moment or two ago at turn 5? No, the two car just going a little too deep into Virage du Pont. That was Max Lynn.
This pair, this is the battle for second place. Louis Rousset under real pressure now from Dino Lunardi and trying to soak it up.
So Rousset, second position, and has allowed that 7-second gap to emerge from his nose to the rear of Tom Dillman's car. And Rousset now having to drive the widest Ligier possible to keep behind him a similar car of Frenchman Dino Lunardi for Edex Sport.
So drive-through penalty for Alex Mortimer. He's way down the field in 20th place. He'll lose that top 20 position with that drive-through. Track limits.
Another one to add to a fairly long list by this point.
I would warn, by the way, regular viewers of the Michelin Le Mans Cup that we are within the last 25 minutes, and we all know what that means, don't we? Anything
don't
can
go
happen.
away.
Anything.
In other words. Yeah. I suppose it's slightly less action than we've had in previous years because there's no longer the extra pit stop. However, this championship always has a habit of producing something we didn't expect. And always in the final round of the season as well. At Portimao, that's just your brain is scrambled by the end of that Michelin Le Mans Cup event, and I'm sure it will go completely down to the wire this year as well. As now Louis Rousset into turn 5 he goes, and the Ferrari very nearly drifting across the bows of Dino Lunardi. He had to force the issue to a certain extent, but contact was avoided.
Neatly done by Rousset. Did what he could to put some clear blue sky between himself and his tormentor. Did that, actually. I think grabbed a few tenths there. Not under as immediate a threat as he was this time at this point on the last lap. It's 0.478 of a second as they came through the end of the first sector. It is an extra couple of tenths. So Rousset doing what he can to fend off what is not looking inevitable, but certainly possible for what would be an excellent result for Edex Sport in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. I can't recall them being on a podium before.
No, indeed. I think they've been top 5 in the past, but may well be a first. We will check. 61 Ferrari heading out of over the curbs at turn 6 with a fair bit of road clear in front now. 3rd position for the AF Corsa car of Montemini.
But becoming under more pressure from Teo Nue in the Aston Martin that is catching under 7.5 seconds now. Was 2 seconds a lap quicker last time around. This isn't done. The Aston Martin, after losing almost a minute to that mistake in the pit stop, could still make the podium.
And question of what might have been had they not lost effectively an additional 30 seconds serving the penalty. Yes, there's the 30 seconds that it didn't sit stationary for, but far better, more preferable to lose a second or two in the pit stop itself than have to soak up an additional half minute in serving the penalty afterwards. But they'll learn these little lessons.
Alex Mortimer, by the way, has served his drive-through penalty, drops the car from 20th to 24th place. That's how costly that can be at this point in the race.
Yeah.
Tom Dillman looking increasingly comfortable here in the lead. The racetrack on our graphic just looks so busy. You can't take your eyes off this traffic.
But nearly 9 seconds now, an advantage for Tom Dillman. And he has already dispatched the 46 Abbey Motors Porsche. So for a brief period, can relax in the knowledge that he got a couple of corners ahead of him that are completely free of any sort of traffic.
So what's going on in terms of potential battles in this almost the last quarter of an hour? Well, second place overall is still very much up to grabs between Louis Rousset and Dino Lunardi. Fourth place, Tommy Foster is closing in on Leo Weiss. Colin Noble is closing the gap rapidly to Sean Tong. That would be for 6th position. And Matt Bell is doing a similar job on the Graf Racing car in 8th, the 57 car of Ryan Harper-Ellam, and that gap is under 3 seconds now.
Straight across the higher friction tarmac for Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. at turn 2. And that car looks quite a handful at this stage of the race. 18th position for the AT Racing Ligier, which just straight line the second corner. And race control will have to judge whether any firm advantage was taken there. Tom Dillman at turn 5, Virage du Camp, and now working his way around 6 and through the kink at 7. Onto the Ligne Droite du Mistral for yet another time. This will be lap 47 for the race leader. Almost 11 seconds better off than Louis Rousset for NV2S Forestier Racing. Dino Lunardi, Leo Weiss, Tommy Foster are the top 5, and it's very tight indeed still between Leo Weiss and Tommy Foster. Less than a second separate the WTM Racing pole sitting car, remember, led for a long time as well, but that RLRM Sport car is closing in.
He's reeling him in, isn't he? And he's reeling him in reasonably quickly. Whether or not he can get by that car. Still very engaging stuff up and down this field. Lots of gaps that are ebbing and flowing. Further couple of tenths taken out of the advantage of Leo Weiss just in that last sector by Tommy Foster. A good run from him. In GT, it's a Honda 1-2. Montemini still being caught, by the way. Another second taken out of that advantage by the Aston Martin. Oh, way off by... Which is that? Is that the number 2? Yes. It's Max Lynn. That would have woken him up. It's the 55 car leader in LMP in GT3. And potential history to be made here, by the way, in GT3. Because if either the 55 or indeed the second place car at the moment, the 44, takes the win, it will be the first ever win globally for this current evolution of the Honda NSX.
Right, yes.
I think the first podium came for Gradient Racing at Long Beach last weekend.
Yeah.
And the Evo 2022, which is what it's called, it's the Honda, or the Acura in the US, NSX GT3, Evo 2022. The first global win. And a truly international car, remember, it's a Japanese brand. The car designed and built in the United States. Road car comes with hybrid drive, of course, not this GT3 version, but the race cars designed and built in Italy by JAS Motorsports just outside Milan, with a huge history, of course, with Honda and touring car racing. 27 car.
But yeah, it will be a crucial part of the Honda NSX history.
Most certainly will be.
Yeah, will be noted down for years to come if they get there. And two of their cars have appeared very dominant to this point so far. They're not going to get a 1-2-3 finish. Very likely 1-2.
You said that out loud. You realised that. There's 12 and a half minutes to go.
Yeah, but look at the gaps. Look at the gaps from Michelin Pedersen. I mean, it'd be great if it could happen.
Down. 12 minutes. This is what he said.
Yeah, a good way to start the season, wouldn't it? With a dominant statement that proved to be entirely inaccurate.
Well, we're going to hear the Danish national anthem by the sound of things.
Well, it's been a while. Well, perhaps first time ever in Michelin Le Mans Cup. Can't think when we would have heard it otherwise.
No, I think you're probably right.
And we've heard lots of
big lock-up by the number 11 car.
Yes, it was.
Now, where is the CD Sport car of Sean Tong? Tommy Foster's buying, by the way. He's up into 4th.
So there you go. That's the first place change for the highest positioned Duquesne. Still, Tong for CD Sport is a further 9 seconds away, but that doesn't necessarily take into account that moment for Weiss. 8.6 is more like it. Might be closer to 7 by the time things settle down. Cian Carey and Wayne Boyd. So you've got Ireland versus Northern Ireland here. 13th and 14th positions. Working their way through Gala back corner and into Virage du Lac.
Cian Carey, second year with the TS Corsa team in this car. Plugging away at this. This is championship-winning driver Wayne Boyd, pretty much a master of the LMP3 art. Just where are the relative strengths and weaknesses of these cars? Car 46 reported to the stewards again for abusing track limits.
And Wayne Boyd is through. That didn't take long. Cian Carey trying to get the Duquesne turned in as quickly as possible into turn 1, but the Ligier of United Autosports that was doing the chasing looking eminently more manoeuvrable at this stage of the race. We are just outside the 10-minute marker of this 1 hour and 50-minute race. Adjusted, remember, for 2022 with 10 minutes shaved off the race time, but it hasn't detracted at all so far. And if things continue like this for the rest of the season, we'll be very happy chappies in the commentary box.
Just a quick shot there of the Writer Engineering car coming down towards Scene Corner. At the moment, that car in 10th is the best placed of our debuting teams, but under pressure from second-year team, Team Tour, and banging on the door here of a top 10 finish.
Mads Seilerhaug just ahead of the chasing Michael Markussen. Tour looking for a way by, left or right, doesn't really matter to get ahead. It might all be down to where the car can be placed on the next lap, though. Difficult to get the required drive out of a very slow speed Virage du Pont, although it's not the ideal run for Mads coming out of turn 14. Wasn't quite close enough to pounce Markussen. Michael Markussen over the line, sharing the car with Auden Gudmundsson. Markussen from Denmark, Gudmundsson, of course, of Iceland.
Yeah.
As our Team Tour themselves.
Yep, Team Tour. Icelandic and proud of it, supported by High Class Racing this year. It's a drive-through penalty, by the way, for car number 20 for not respecting track limits. That is the Optimum Motorsport. That's a second drive-through penalty. Full course yellow procedures. Apologies this time. So that is Alex Mortimer will be making a second run down pit lane, having recovered from 24th to 22nd. That work is going to be undone again, I'm afraid. It's going to be a frustrating afternoon for Alex Mortimer. Tommy Foster working very hard to close the gap to Dino Lenardi in a podium position. It's under 7 seconds. He's just put in a purple sector in the middle sector of Paul Ricard. That's going to be one to watch. That's
Tommy
a
Foster
statement of purpose, isn't it?
May not be done yet, and there is a podium up for grabs. Running in 4th at the moment, Dino Lenardi, the man who stands in his way. And actually, Louis Rousset is only 2.4 seconds further ahead.
Yeah.
Still, Mads Seilerhaug hanging on to this position for the time being. Michael Markussen trying all sorts of weird and wonderful lines in and out of Beausset. There's a Ferrari as well that they've got to get round. Yeah, it wasn't ideal for the Writer Engineering car. Much cleaner for Team Tour. But the net effect might not come into fruition until the final corner, and Team Tour trying to get down the inside there in that classic Le Castellet manoeuvre, but it was covered off by the Reiter engineering car of Mads Seilerhaug, and he stays in front for the time being.
This one's going to run and run, isn't it? Meantime, Colin Noble 2 seconds back from Sean Tong now. Michael Markussen and Mads Seilerhaug right together with Seen. Matt Bell under 3 seconds back from Ryan Harper-Ellen. These are all for top 10 positions, and these points are going to count. Drive through for car 46, abusing track limits. Drive through for car 30, abusing track limits. And there's another off for
yes, there was.
Which of the...
Just trying to check that out on the track at 32, most likely, although the two car was in that sort of area as well. Yeah, two's been delayed heavily.
I'm afraid it's Max Lynn. He's not having a great afternoon, is he?
And he hasn't yet pinged through the end of that first sector, so it might be that he just didn't make the loop at all, didn't go through the marker points effectively, because he was so far wide. And his lap will have to be inserted again manually by our timekeepers. Oh, very, very deep indeed on the inside there of Senior Corner. That was Mads Seilerhaug having to dodge around a recovering United Autosports car, I think, and got off onto the dust on the right-hand side. So that was Max Lynn that they were lapping, and it meant that the run then in through Senior Corner itself was very hairy indeed for Mads Seilerhaug, with no grip on those Michelin tyres.
And it's Kai van Berlo catching both of them. Hadn't spotted that, but that's Kai van Berlo, one of those two United Autosports cars.
In the second of those cars then, because the 2 is... No, it's a 32. Yeah, so you're right, he's got ahead of the 2.
Oh, big, another lock up there for the Reiter car. Ragged edge stuff. Team Tour looking for a way through. United are going to be looking for a way through, both of them. 5.5 minutes left. I'll keep an eye on the rest of these battles. Tommy Foster still catching, under 5 seconds now off the podium.
Over line they go. Another warning flag this time for the abuse of track limits for the 31 car of AF Corsa. That's the prototype for AF Corsa, now driven by Rui Aguas.
Bullet Racing, by the way, under 2.5 seconds from the podium in GT right now.
Closing in on Andrea Montemini. Oh, very wayward indeed for both of them. And that's a result of a spin for Michael Markussen, and through, spreading the eye of the needle, Kai van Berlo. Did he pick both of them off? The 77 Team Tour car heavily delayed. Not quite ahead of Mads Seilerhaug. It was Seilerhaug's moment that Markussen reacted to and lost his car completely, and Kai van Berlo read it perfectly and at least got around the 77. So Seilerhaug, one heck of a tank slapper, and trying to avoid it, and it resulting spin for the Danish driver Michael Markussen. Otherwise, it would have been perfect for Team Tour to probably have taken that place away from Reiter Engineering, and instead all of that hard work from the Dane in the Icelandic prepared car, or Danish prepared car for Icelandic team, they have to do all their hard work again.
They're a factor this year. They've shown that anybody battling for a top 10 in this field is going to be a factor, and they've done that most of the afternoon. Here's Kai van Berlo now, looking to roughhouse his way by the Reiter Engineering 76 car. Goes wide over the curbs. It's looking very ragged, isn't it, at the moment for the
also pretty close, CD Sport and Nielsen Racing. So this is Colin Noble.
He's taken the place.
Of Sean Tong.
He's taken the place.
Yeah, he's moved ahead of Sean Tong, the driver from Hong Kong. And Edinburgh-based Colin Noble into the top 6 in their defence, along with Tony Wells, of last year's title. Reiter Engineering now really being pressured hard by Kai van Berlo of the Netherlands.
It's another example, isn't it, with the Reiter car clearly trimmed for speed but struggling around Sector 1 and Sector 3, and really having to tough it out.
Meanwhile, Team Tour in the background looking to get ahead of, I think, Max Lynn, so that wouldn't be for position. No. As the front wheels of Kai van Berlo are nearly level with Mads Seilerhaug as they work their way along that short straight between 5 and 6. He was very wide indeed, Seilerhaug, and that not the perfect line through 7. Surely this is van Berlo's chance now. He'll use the slipstream, and the car in front will not be able to get to the same sort of speed at the same pace, you would think, although Seiler House car is that one that's been trimmed out and therefore is competitive down the Mistral straight. Van Berlo needs to get the overtake done just before the braking area. Is he going to be brake?
Just
of course
done
he
it.
is. Of course he is.
Just done it.
Round the outside will go Van Berlo to take that place away from Reiter Engineering. That is the 11th spot. No, it's not. It's 10th, in fact.
It's 10th.
Already
It is
ahead
top
on
10
our
spot.
timing screen, so quickly has it updated.
Matt Bell is right with Ryan Harper-Elland for 8th position. Colin Noble, 2.6 seconds from Leo Weiss and 5 seconds quicker last time around. He can do that. Lou Rousset has seen off at the moment the challenge from Dino Lunardi. Tommy Foster, 3.5 seconds back, but running out of time.
Matt Bell trying to force a mistake from Ryan Harper-Elland. Harper-Elland in the Graf car, the black nose, as they head into turn number 3 at Virage de la Hotel.
And in GT, we've got the Aston Martin, which is under a second behind Andrea Montemini. Theo Nue has fought back and is right with the ex-Formula 1 driver for a podium position.
Onto the Mistral goes the 8th place fight then. Graf versus Nielsen. Van Berlo is 15 seconds adrift, so that's as high up the order as he's going to get. Tommy Foster's just done the fastest middle sector of anybody again. Laurence Rohr, by the way, has levered the fastest lap back from Wayne Boyd. It's down to a 150.480. He did that on lap 38. Round the outside goes Matt Bell to take the place away from Ryan Harper-Elland. Set that up all the way down the Mistral, and the Duquesne looking very strong indeed. Onto the brakes in time for Beausset and cements the place, Matt Bell.
So Matt Bell then takes the number 4 car up now into 8th position. Tommy Foster with 35 seconds on the clock. It's the last lap for the leader. Leader at the moment is coming through turn 6.
This Team Virage car looking pretty racy, but he's not on the lead lap,
No.
so even if that car got in front, the positions would not change. You're talking about the advances of Theo Nue for Bullock Racing and the Aston Martin, right with Andrea Montemini. He's only got 5 seconds left on the clock. Now, where's the race leader overall on the Mistral straight? So heading around now to the end of the lap, and I think ahead of this pair.
It is. He is.
So this will confirm it will be the last lap for these guys as well. This is the one and only opportunity, really, for Theo Nue, who's got a cracking run on Gustav Birch. And can he do a Matt Bell? Yes, he can around the outside. Stupendous overtake, and had to do it the hard way because they soaked up a penalty as well for significant breach of minimum pit stop reference time.
Not Gustav Birch, remember, Andrea Montemini.
Oh, sorry, yes.
So that will put Theo Nue up into a podium finishing position.
Yeah, so onto the podium for Theo Nue, but Tom Dillman in the number 10 Racing Spirit of Le Mans crew, along with Alexander Maxwell, will head out of the final corner and take the checkered flag.
A win for Tom Dillman and the Racing Spirit of Le Mans team. Round 1 of the 2022 Michelin Le Mans Cup.
What a race for the Michelin Le Mans Cup in 2022 to kick-start Le Castellet with a dramatic victory for Racing Spirit of Le Mans for Tom Dillman and Alexander Maxwell, and a win in the GT3s for the debut team from Denmark, GMB Motorsport, Kasper Eick Jensen, and starting the 55 car was Christian Poulsen.
Yet to come home, the 55, the 44 and the 99 are home. Confirmed in second and third. First, second, third have been confirmed in LMP3. Tommy Foster at close to under a second. Here comes the 55. GMB Racing's 55 Honda NSX GT3 2020 Evo. A global first for the Danish team. That's the first win in competition anywhere in the world for the current iteration of the Honda NSX GT3. A Japanese car built for the road in America, built and designed for the racetrack in Italy. Fantastic stuff from the Danish team, and I'm sure a lot more to come. You can see emotion in the cockpit there. A 1-2 in their debut for GMB Motorsports. And a very different looking 1-2-3, Johnny, for the overall.
Yeah, refreshing, because Racing Spirit of Le Mans have toyed with top 10s in the past, but quite a statement to everybody else in the championship. MV2S Forestier Racing, they have again been inching their way closer to top 10s, the odd top 6 here and there as well, but a second place finish mightily impressive for Louis Rousset and his teammate at MV2S, Jerome de Saint-Delia.
Before we get to the celebrations underneath the podium, another position change on the last lap. Nielsen Racing's number 7 car, Colin Noble, got by Leo Weiss for 5th position just before the flag. Excellent stuff.
Edex Sport home in the number 17 car in 3rd position for CR Cruz and Dino Lunardi, and it's a GMB Motorsport 1-2 ahead of Theo Nue and his teammate at Bullet Racing,
Stephen Patrick. Yeah. So number 99 Bullet Racing Aston Martin did not have the best of starts to the weekend, but a hell of a good finish to that race. But first time winners here in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Racing Spirit of Le Mans with Tom Dillman bringing that car home.
Very happy indeed with their afternoon's work in glorious sunshine that remains here at New Castellet. Racing Spirit of Le Mans become new winners in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Didn't really put a wheel wrong throughout the course of the race, and that's what it requires these days to win one of these races. Matchell pressurising the, Jerome de Saint-Delia throughout his stint, and of course at the time the 11 car looking very dominant indeed. Now that Tom Dillman is home, much conversation being had, not only with the team but also with his co-driver as well. He had to do the hard work in the first couple of laps of his stint, so no time at all to adjust to the conditions and get used to the car, push hard and then try and maintain that gap, which actually stands at 18.5 seconds by the end of an hour and 50 minutes.
Still very warm out there as well, 21.3 degrees you can see on the gantry as home comes the race-winning GMB Motorsport Honda, Casper H. Jensen. Very pleased indeed with that result.
The group photographs that we'll be seeing in forthcoming publications being taken. Thirsty work, I'm sure, for Tom Dillman, but Alexander Matchell has had some time to chill out a little bit and cool down as the 55 GMB Motorsport Honda arrives on the scene as well. Casper H. Jensen bringing that car home with Christian Poulsen, the bronze-rated driver, providing the foundation in the first half of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Opening race of the season. That's the reaction from GMB Motorsport then. It'll be a 1-2 finish for that crew, with Gustav Birch and Jens Moller doing hard work as well. So, a chance now for Haley to have a word with Tom Dillman and the important work he did in the early stage of the stint.
I'm joined here by the winners in the LMP3 category. Drivers of car number 10, Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Tom, what a fantastic stint out there. Just tell us how it was for you. Congratulations, firstly. What a great drive from you.
Yeah, but to be honest, my teammate gave me an easy life. He did a super first stint, so I just had to focus on doing the undercut, pushing on the outlap and the first push, and we could jump to the lead. And then we're just managing from there. So easy life thanks to this guy.
Great effort, of course, from you, Alexander, and of course a great start to the season for you.
Yeah, it's a great start. I must say it's a little bit emotional even, because when I think 3 weeks back, I was not expecting that I'm here. It's the Easter weekend, and I was planned with my family to Mallorca. My family is now here, and but because Racing Spirit of Le Mans gave me the opportunity to drive here, and it was a great weekend, I must say. Thank you.
Well, I think that's a great exchange, and you're right not to go on holiday. So yeah, well done for your victory, guys. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Le Castellet, the scene of the opening round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup for 2022. Blue sky all around the Circuit Paul Ricard for race number 1 of 7 this year. And we're going to be going to Italy twice, to Le Mans for the Road to Le Mans, and to Belgium and Portimao to complete the season. Loads of racing for these cars, and a fit to bursting grid. 31 LMP3s, 7 GT3s got underway just after 4:30 this afternoon, and amazingly many of them did get through the first couple of corners unscathed. A good getaway for Torsten Kratz, who was chased all the way by Jerome de Saint-Delia. Further back, 1 or 2 incidents, including for Freddie Hunt, who nearly lost the car in a massive way down the Mistral Straight. Very good car control in the Reiter Engineering LMP3. Early stops then for the GMB Motorsport car. That was the car coming in for a penalty after a jump start for Jens Moller. And some overtakes between Ebby Motors and AF Corsa. They've been old foes going back through the archives. This a frightening moment for Klaus Abelan at senior corner. The very, very rapid right-hander, and a full course yellow would be issued to retrieve a stray bollard at Virage du Camp at turn 5. Brave Marshall picking that up and getting it back very swiftly indeed. There was a spin for Jerome de Saint-Delia. Hadn't quite expected the tyre degradation to fall off as significantly as it did in his first ever prototype LMP3 race. Done loads of radicals in the past. Also rather wayward coming out of Virage du Pont between the 14 car and a recovering 43. That would result in a puncture, some contact at the final corner. Pit stops started in anger. Remember, a mandatory pit stop required along with a driver change, run to a minimum pit stop reference time. And Tom Dillman, who took over the number 10 Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, had no moment's peace at all. Needed to get his sleeves rolled up as quickly as possible to dispatch the number 11 car of Leo Weiss, which he did with aplomb, and then presented by a rejoining MV2 Forestier racing car, number 29, Louis Rousset, taking over from Jerome de Saint-Delia, and Rousset could not hang back the rapid Frenchman Tom Dillman in car number 10 in that teal and black car, going to the race lead, and eventually he would stretch his legs to over 18 seconds. So car 10 for Racing Spirit of Le Mans, who've always traditionally been wedged down into the lower order of the top 10 and beyond, but they have done a really good job today to take victory. Congratulations to Tom Dillman and the man who set the foundation, Alexander Matschel. That's what it means to the Swiss squad. And in their debut for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, JMB Motorsport, a 1-2 finish, 55 finishing ahead of 44. Time for the podium, but actually before we get to that, we can go back to GMB Motorsport and hear from one of their drivers, Christian Poulsen, who Haley has managed to get hold of before the podium actually starts.
Firstly, Christian, congratulations. A lot of firsts here for you today. First time Michelin Le Mans Cup, first victory for the NSX here as well. And also, after 7 years break, I mean, that's a lot of firsts and a lengthy gap after a break. How do you feel?
Yeah, it was a fantastic, really good start for a new Danish team, and with a new car, and yeah, a new teammate for me. And after 7 breaks, and then 7 years of break, and then win. So it was fantastic.
Absolutely. You're able to take advantage of the penalties, the number 88 and 44 Cup for jump starting, putting yourself in the lead.
Yeah, it was. There's a lot of cars in the start, and you really have to be careful what you do, because you can easily on this track jump start because it's so the starting line is far away. So we have to really be careful. But I took it easy, and yeah, and the others made a mistake. So that was a good start.
Your strategy paid off. Well done. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Christian Poulsen, it's fantastic to have him back with his pedigree in the FIA World Endurance Championship. So many Le Mans to look back on as well.
Last international race win believed to be in the WC in 2014 when he won the title.
Yes.
Which is
198 points. Yeah, indeed so. So 7 years away from ACO rules racing. He's done some TCR racing, and actually appeared a couple of times in the World Rally Championship as well. But this is his first competitive action in anger within these championship pools. 55 laps completed for Racing Spirit of Le Mans for Tom Dillman and teammate Alexander Matschel, finishing ahead of Jerome de Sadelier and Louis Rousset for MV2S. Dino Lunardi and teammate in the James Winslow in the 17 car, sorry, Charles Cruz rather, and Dino Lunardi in the Ligier for EDEX Sport. Ahead of RLRM Sport, Colin Noble and Tony Wells, defending champions, finish in the top 5 in the end, so that will get their points tally ticking over nicely. Leo Weiss and Torsten Kratz from pole position slipped back to 6th. Certain bits of that race did not quite go to plan, but the opening stint from Torsten was stupendous, and at least he brought the car in from the race lead for the pit stops. CD Sport of Spain finished 7th ahead of Nielsen Racing's second car, Graf from France 9th, and it's United Autosport's best car in 10th place for Kai von Berlo, and quite a drive to the finish there for him. GT3, first and second, as mentioned, GMB Motorsport, third position for Bullet Racing, and an overtake done on the final lap by Theo Nue, Stephen Patrick, his co-driver in the 99, ahead of the AF Corsa number 61 Ferrari of Giorgio Forgione and Andrea Montemini. The third of the GMB Motorsport Honda NSXs finishing in 5th place, ahead of another AF Corsa Ferrari and EBI Motors Porsche in 7th position. Could have been a lot better for the Italian crew with the German car. EBI Motors remembering how tough this championship is to get good results, although they are former race winners, and that was 5 years ago now.
As we said a little earlier, a very different looking podium, and all the better for that, actually. Good to see some of these teams coming back with refreshed efforts, being rewarded for those labours. Josh Skelton there from Cool Racing. Not the best day for Cool Racing, I'm afraid. That 69 car, not Josh's car, the other car, grinding to a halt, and not seeing Malte Jakobsen really feature in this race. But great day for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Oddly enough, used to be the service provider for Cool Racing before setting out on their own. MV2S concentrating this year on the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and clearly that's paid off for them. And then EDEX Sports, long-term supporters of this package, and I think by far their best result. Olivier Panis there. Winners from GMB Racing, and second place as well.
So much discussion to be had after a fraught race, and you don't want to break the concentration during the hour and 50 minutes, but now a chance to reflect.
That is all 3 crews actually from the Honda team.
So that faint but recognisable haze in the distance. Le Castellet perfectly placed in terms of its scenery and weather, to be honest. Nice and high, and perfect place for an airport, great place for a racetrack as well. It has been the case for a little over 50 years now. Final preparations being made ahead of the podium, and it will, I think, be LMP3s first of all, followed by the GT3s, with the setting sun in the background. Team personnel needing to be in position as well. Great that we can finally be back to a traditional podium as well, without the need for social distancing, without the need for COVID masks as well. The decision was taken before the start of the season that this would be a mask-free event, and a situation that will be continually monitored, I'm sure. So EDEX Sport ready to be brought forward. Dino Lunardi and Charles Cruz in their Ligier. And EDEX Sports will be a team to look out for in tomorrow's European Le Mans Series race as well. But here they come to get the trophies then. It is EDEX Sport in 3rd position in the first race of the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Applaudissements en bas, satisfaction, sourire, travail accompli. La deuxième marche avec le team
A thumbs up there, I noticed, from Paul Chatat, who is very much invested in Edex Sport as well. So he's delighted to see fellow members of their crew doing so well in the first major race of the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year. First major race of the weekend as well. Second place going the way of MV2S Forestier Racing and their duo of drivers, Jérôme de Sadelier and Louis Rousset. But the win, first win of the season, first win of their Michelin Le Mans Cup career, going to Tom Dillman and Alexander Matchell, together with the Racing Spirit of Le Mans crew on top of the podium. Round one of the Michelin Le Mans Cup is won by Racing Spirit of Le Mans. And we will hear the national anthem of Switzerland for Racing Spirit of Le Mans right now. Michelin caps going back on for all 7 members then on the podium, and trophies will be held aloft for all the photographs to be taken. And then there are 7 bottles of champagne to be cracked open. Some may be kept, I suppose, but in the true tradition of Le Mans, most need to be sprayed, and that's exactly what's going to happen by the looks of things. A very warm podium is about to become a pretty damp one as the champagne is sprayed at the end of the first Michelin Le Mans Cup event of the season here at Le Castellet. It's a win for Racing Spirit of Le Mans, second place for MV2S Forestier Racing, and Edex Sport bagged 3rd position with Dino Lunardi and Charles Cruz. Well done to all involved, Graham.
Great stuff, great race, good fun that one, and free of really major drama, plenty of actual racing drama, plenty of off-track moments, but most of the action was kept to good, hard racing, and that's what we like to see. Michelin Le Mans Cup producing the goods here for round 1. And as we've said a couple of times, I'll say it one more time, it's nice to see some new teams, and rather different teams and new faces on an overall podium. And we're going to see more of those for the second podium for the GT3 class, and a brand new national anthem for the championship.
Yes. So we will wait for that, and GMB Motorsport, confirmation of the points then accrued for the top class, the LMP3s. Racing Spirit of Le Mans will leave with 25 points, MV2S 18, Edex Sport 15, RLRM Sport finishing in 4th position, get 12 points ahead of WTM Racing and Nielsen Racing 11 and 8 respectively. WTM getting 10 plus the extra point that they earned earlier on today for pole position. And a little further down the order, if you finish outside of the top 10, but do finish, you get half a point. Matchell and Dillman, Alexander and Tom will get 25 points each. Jérôme de Sadelier and teammate Louis Rousset 18, and so it continues further down. So 3rd position on the GT3 podium for Bullet Racing's Stephen Patrick and Theo Nouet of Great Britain and France respectively. The first crew from GMB Motorsport finishing in 2nd place, Gustav Birch and Jens Moller, 44. And the win will go to another GMB Motorsport crew from 55 car, Kasper H. Jensen and Christian Poulsen, now working their way forward. Fists clenched, champagne awaits them on the top step of the podium. And that is the podium at the end of round 1 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Here at Le Castellet, it's a 1-2 finish for GMB Motorsport. Here's the national anthem for the first time of Denmark. The national anthem of Denmark, the national anthem for GMB Motorsport, and they're joined on the top step of the podium, the two drivers, by Kasper Elgaard, who is the team manager, effectively, of GMB Motorsport, but a name I'm sure that many will know from racing circles in the past. So great that he can join in with the celebrations as the champagne sprays at the end of the GT3 podium. It's a GMB Motorsport 1-2, 25 points and 19 for car 44 because they got pole earlier on this season. AF Corsa shown in third there, intriguingly. But it was definitely the two Aston Martin drivers on the third step of the podium. I didn't misidentify them, did I? No. OK, well, we'll check that. Andrea Montemini and Gino Forgione should be in fourth position and therefore getting 12 points rather than 15. Well, there we are. That was enough entertainment for you. Frankly, it might have been enough entertainment for about 4 races, but thankfully we've got lots more racing in the Michelin Le Mans Cup to come, including in a month's time in Emilia-Romagna around the historic Imola Grand Prix circuit. We'll look forward to that. Join Graham Goodwin and me, Johnny Palmer, in about 4 weeks' time. Bye-bye for now.